Prologue. A glorious and prosperous kingdom is ruled by a powerful emperor named Fabry Blanche Iceston. He is one of the best rulers of the state in its entire history. The young ruler of the empire is known far beyond its borders for his wisdom and justice. Fabry Blanche Iceston led his country and its citizens to prosperity and well-being. Thanks to the courage and talent of the wise ruler, his empire is now experiencing a period of long peace and the highest development. All the inhabitants of the state are very happy and honor their emperor. But one day, the mighty and glorious ruler of the empire met a girl named Enya Lockhart, and his life changed dramatically. Due to the circumstances, the emperor had to turn the life of this young lady into absolute hell. The girl is the main character of a romantic book called The Imprisoned Empress. This lady is also the main character of our story. Enya Lockhart had to go through a great many difficult trials to find her happiness and get back from life what she rightfully deserves. Emperor Fabry Blanche Iceston also went through a winding and difficult path before he realized what was most important to him in this life and what he really wanted. The love story, whose heroes are Enya Lockhart and Fabry Blanche Iceston, belongs to the genre of dark romance with an adult rating. But in fact, in this story, everything is not as scary as it may seem at first glance, and it will suit readers of a younger age. The action takes place in the office of the main character before the main events described in the novel, which is called The Imprisoned Empress. Enya Lockhart works as a doctor. Now she has an elderly woman at her reception who asks the girl if she wants to get married. Enya Lockhart listened carefully to her patient and said that she had not yet thought about her marriage. The girl was not interested in this topic yet. The old woman said that she had a wonderful grandson who would be an ideal husband for the main character. The girl should think about this intriguing offer. Enya Lockhart told her patient that she would definitely think about it, but in the meantime, the grandmother should take all the cold medicine the doctor prescribed her and, under no circumstances, throw it in the trash. Last time, the old-school patient did exactly that with the pills the girl prescribed for her. After that, the old woman went home. The main character saw her patient off and thought that her grandmother shouldn't be so upset about her refusal. Enya Lockhart is simply trying to protect the grandson of this elderly woman from the wrath of the emperor, who is pursuing the girl everywhere. Enya Lockhart wants to avoid the fate that awaits her in the original novel, so she hides from the emperor and does not want to come into contact with him. The girl thought that she might soon have to pack up and move again. At the very beginning of all these events, the Lockhart family, who held the title of Marquise, helped Fabry Blanche Iceston to take the imperial throne. In gratitude for the help provided, the ruler of the empire bestowed the title of dukes on the Lockhart family. After this, the young emperor and the daughter of the Lockhart family entered into a political marriage to cement their alliance that had formed during the struggle for the throne. Before the marriage, there was no love between the young aristocrats, but everything changed dramatically after the first wedding night. No one expected such a turn of events. The young emperor changed his attitude towards Enya Lockhart. The girl deeply wounded the heart of her master, which had not yet been burned by the scorching flame of first love. But this infatuation of the aristocrat was more like passion than love. From that moment on, Fabry Blanche Iceston began to monitor his young wife's every move. The emperor was interested not only in the places Enya Lockhart was going, but also in the people she was communicating with. This behavior of the ruler of the state resembles some kind of strange psychological illness. The emperor persecuted his beautiful wife, even when she wanted to communicate alone with her relatives. The aristocrat's paranoia began to progress. The ruler of Iceston became terribly jealous of Enya Lockhart's family. This soon had terrible and irreversible consequences that affected the lives of many people. The emperor's unfounded jealousy ended with him accusing his wife's family of treason and executing all of Enya Lockhart's relatives. This was a great blow to the main character, who did not expect such a terrible crime from her husband. All this was done only to gain absolute power over Enya Lockhart, who had conquered the heart of the mad emperor. But the proud and freedom-loving aristocrat was not satisfied with such a terrible prospect. Many years before these events, when the main character was 8 years old, she realized that she had somehow magically found herself on the pages of this novel and had become one of its main characters. This shocked the girl, but she could do nothing about it. Enya Lockhart felt completely helpless in her situation and suddenly realized that she had an extraordinary talent. She was incarnated with the ability to distinguish diseases thanks to her keen sense of smell. Now the girl can make accurate diagnoses of sick people by smelling the smells that come from them. The main character smelled a strange smell and looked at her father, who was talking to a man on crutches. The girl immediately determined the exact diagnosis of the Duke's interlocutor. This interlocutor turned out to be Enya Lockhart's grandfather. The girl ran up to the old Duke and told him that he smelled strange. This case interested the grandfather of the main character, and he was carefully examined. It turned out that the girl had identified a serious illness in the old Duke, which was at an early stage of its development. For this, Enya Lockhart received a large monetary reward from her relatives, who wanted to thank her at all costs. The main character decided to develop her talent. She began to study the effects of various medicinal herbs to become a real healer and influence her life scenario. One day, the Lockhart family received a letter from the Emperor, in which he expressed a desire to marry Enya. Thanks to the original novel, which the main character read several times, she packed her things and secretly left home to avoid an alliance with the Emperor, which would bring the girl and her family many troubles in the future. Enya Lockhart burned things from her past life so that no one would know who she really is, and firmly decided to change the scenario of her life. From now on, the girl does not feel like a helpless victim of circumstances. The main character looks at the fire of her fire blazing in the night and thinks that for all the treasures in the world, she would not want to meet the crazy emperor who wants to imprison her in a golden cage. A carriage is racing along a forest road. In this carriage is Enya Lockhart, who has been hiding from the ruler of the empire for 3 years, traveling across the vast expanses of her country. The girl sadly looks out the carriage window and thinks about her parents. The main character is worried about them, but understands that now she cannot be near them because she is being pursued by a crazy emperor. Enya Lockhart also thought that she could stay longer in the village she is leaving now, but the emperor decided to change the law on the registration of residence. This circumstance can greatly complicate the main character's movement around the country. The ruler of Akiston passed a law on the registration of the inhabitants of the empire in order to strengthen his power over local aristocrats and to calculate the mobilization resource of his state. Now, thanks to this law, the main character has to rack her brains over how to move unnoticed from one settlement of the empire to another. This is quite a difficult task, because now the girl has to constantly register in new places. In the course of her reflections, Enya Lockhart came to the conclusion that the sparsely populated southern regions of the state were currently the least subject to the new law on the registration of residents of the empire. Therefore, the main character decided to immediately go to the southern lands of the state, which are owned by Count Greenwald. Here the girl will feel much more comfortable and calm. When the young duchess arrived at the lands of Count Greenwald, she found herself caught in a pouring rain. But this did not sadden the girl, because she was glad that she was in relative safety in lands inhabited mainly by older people who lived in the old way and did not pay attention to the new laws. Through the veil of pouring rain, the main character finally reached her new home. The girl was very happy that she would soon be able to dry off and warm up under the roof of her cozy home. Enya Lockhart didn't hesitate and quickly went inside her new home. The girl looked around and was completely delighted with the beautiful surroundings that she saw. Everything is fine in the main character's new house, but something is starting to bother the girl. She remembered the words of the realtor who advertised the house to her. He said that there is one small flaw that should not bother Enya Lockhart. The young duchess cannot understand what this flaw is and is afraid of it. The girl thought for a while and came to the conclusion that at the moment this house, which was located on the outskirts, was the ideal home for a person hiding from the emperor. Suddenly, the main character heard a strange noise behind the front door and interrupted her thoughts. She decided to check what exactly caused this mysterious sound. Enya Lockhart went to the front door to open it and find the source of the strange sound she just heard. But the girl is a little afraid because she does not want to get involved in the story and attract unnecessary attention to herself. The main character overcame all her doubts and, nevertheless, opened the front door of her house. What the girl saw behind the door shocked her. Enya Lockhart wasn't too scared, but she was a little confused and thought that her quiet and calm life in complete solitude away from people was canceled for now. The thing is that the main character saw a mysterious stranger at her doorstep who was lying unconscious in the pouring rain and showed no signs of life. The situation that had developed puzzled the girl very much. Enya Lockhart doesn't know who is standing in front of her now and whether she should help him. Maybe this man is an accomplice of the mad emperor and is looking for his bride who ran away from him. The main character stares at the mysterious stranger who lies unconscious on the ground in the pouring rain. The girl cannot understand what all this means. Now Enya Lockhart understood why the rent for this house was so low. There could be problems with public safety. Suddenly, the main character heard the groans of a mysterious stranger. The girl again turned her attention to him and began to think about what to do in this situation. The stranger continues to lie on the ground and moan. The main character looks closely at this young man and understands that he is quite handsome. Enya Lockhart sat down next to the stranger and asked him how he was feeling at the moment and if he could get back on his feet. There was no answer, so the main character tried to shake the young man awake so that he would come to his senses a little. He urgently needed to go into the house so as not to catch a cold in the rain. Enya Lockhart stares at her charge and smells the disease. The girl's extraordinary abilities, which nature has endowed her with, have been activated. The main character ponders what to do in this situation. If the young duchess calls the police, it will attract unwanted attention to her. This cannot be allowed because she is on the run. Enya Lockhart thought that she could not leave the poor young man lying helpless in the pouring rain. The young man might catch a cold and die. The main character has made her final decision. The girl will take the mysterious stranger into her home to give him first aid. If the young duchess does not do this, her conscience will torment her for the rest of her life. Enya Lockhart felt her charge's pulse and realized that he was in a stable condition, but he needed rest and care. Now the girl needed to move the young man into the house. The main character strained all her strength and managed to lift the mysterious stranger to his feet. After that, the girl allowed the young man to lean on her and carefully led him into her house. The young duchess thinks that she is taking a great risk by doing what she does, but she has no other choice now. The girl relies on the will of fate. Let it put everything in its place. The main character, at the cost of great effort, was able to drag her charge to her house and bring him in. After that, the girl put the young man on the floor and consoled herself with the thought that perhaps this young man could be useful to her in the future. Enya Lockhart sat down on the living room floor to rest and gather her strength, because she was very tired while carrying a heavy young man into her house. The girl laments that he passed out right at her doorstep. Suddenly, the main character remembered that recently in one of her letters, her personal maid named Emma informed her that she would send a person who could help the young duchess. The maid Emma wrote in her letter that she would send a mercenary to help her young mistress, whom she trusted completely. Therefore, Enya Lockhart should receive him well and trust him too. The main character looked closely at the young man who was still unconscious. The girl thinks that this mysterious stranger could be the very mercenary that her personal maid sent to help her mistress. But the girl began to have doubts, because this young man could be a loyal servant of the mad emperor. If he came to catch the young duchess and return her to his master, then it would be a real disaster. The main character looked intently at her ward, who was lying peacefully and quietly on the floor of her living room. She thought that such a handsome young man could not be her enemy. To dispel all her doubts, the girl decided to thoroughly search the mysterious stranger and check whether he was a mercenary of the emperor who came for her soul. A few minutes after a thorough search, the main character was convinced that there really was a mercenary in front of her. The young duchess found a symbol on the mysterious stranger that confirmed this. The keychain that Enya Lockhart found contains the personal information of the mysterious mercenary. It turns out that the young man's name is Dale, and he is a high-level mercenary. The main character read the inscriptions on the keychain and remembered that the crazy emperor has a complex and long name, which is not indicated here. So, this young man is not dangerous yet. After that, the young duchess for some reason imagined the hostile emperor as a red bell pepper who wants to kill her family. The girl also thought that the mysterious stranger was too handsome to be a secondary character in the original novel. The emperor was also always described as a handsome man in all sources. The main character decided to check whether the emperor who decided to pursue his bride in all corners of his state is in front of her now. There is one effective way to do this. To do this, the young duchess approached the mysterious stranger, who was still unconscious, and lifted the eyelid of his left eye. The girl discovered that the iris of the eye was painted gold. This calmed Enya Lockhart down a little. The girl knows that the emperor is a blue-eyed blonde. That is why there is another person lying unconscious in front of her now. But for now, the main character is not 100% sure that this young stranger is not a crazy emperor who decided to pursue his bride personally. To begin with, the young duchess decided to cure the mysterious stranger, so that she could then question him and find out the information she was interested in. If something went wrong, Enya Lockhart could always go on the run. The main character began preparing for the treatment of her ward and remembered the words of her grandfather, who always said that the sufferer should always be helped, no matter who he is. These words are the motto of the Lockhart family, so the young duchess decided to start treating the young stranger, who was very lucky because Enya Lockhart is a great doctor. Morning came. The main character had not slept all night because she was taking care of her ward, who had not yet regained consciousness. The girl was very tired, but she was sure that she had done everything necessary to help the mysterious stranger. Anya Lockhart examined her charge carefully. The girl noticed that the boy's fever had subsided and his pulse had become more stable. After that, the main character fell asleep, sitting on the floor, because she was very tired and had not slept all night. While the girl was sleeping, her ward came to his senses. A mysterious stranger approached the sleeping Duchess and tried to wake her up to find out what happened to him that night and why he ended up in this unfamiliar place. The young man tries to wake up his savior, but he fails because she sleeps too deeply and soundly. A few hours later, the main character began to wake up because she heard some loud noise. At first, the girl thought that it was her personal maid Emma making the noise. But after a few moments, the young Duchess came to her senses and realized that she had been on the run for 3 years, so her personal maid could not be with her. So someone else was making noise now. This puzzled the main character very much. The young Duchess finally woke up and noticed that she was on the 2nd floor of her house. The girl could not understand how she ended up here. Anya Lockhart is lying in bed, although she clearly remembers that she fell asleep yesterday on the 1st floor, sitting on the floor. All this is very strange and requires an immediate explanation. The main character heard loud sounds coming from the 1st floor again. The girl decided to arm herself with the first thing that came to hand and check if her people had discovered the Mad Emperor. When the young Duchess went down to the 1st floor, she found her charge, whom she had been treating all night. It turned out that the mysterious stranger had decided to cook dinner and wash the dishes, which is why the kitchen utensils were making a loud noise. The mysterious stranger was engrossed in his work. Suddenly he noticed that there was someone else in the room. This made the young man distracted from his work. After that, the young man turned to Anya Lockhart and smiled at her warmly. The young man was very happy to see his savior in good spirits and well rested. The main character looks closely at her patient from yesterday and cannot believe that he already feels so well. The girl thought that the mysterious stranger would lie in bed for at least 2 more weeks. The young Duchess's suspicions were aroused again. The girl threatened her interlocutor with a broom and asked him what he was doing now. The young man was a little confused and replied that he was trying to prepare dinner for his savior in gratitude for her help. The main character listened attentively to the young stranger and said that he was a good man because he decided to cook dinner. But the girl wants to know immediately who this mysterious young man is. The stranger listened attentively to the girl and immediately rushed to apologize to her for forgetting to introduce himself. He decided to take off his kitchen apron to look more presentable. After this, the young man smiled at his interlocutor and said that his name was Dale, and he was the legal owner of the house in which the young people were now located. The main character listened attentively to her interlocutor and was very surprised when she learned that he was the owner of the house in which she had settled yesterday. After this, the young man invited his savior to the table so that she could have lunch and discuss the situation with him in more detail. The girl ate a little and said that now everything was clear to her. The owner of the house, whose name is Dale, explains to the main character that she pays so little rent because she only rents the 2nd floor. A young man will live on the 1st floor of this house. The young man recommended his interlocutor to eat a little more of the dish he had prepared. After that, the young man said that he urgently needed money, so he decided to rent out the 2nd floor of his home. The main character listened carefully to Dale and remembered that she was in such a hurry that she didn't even read the rental contract that the real estate agent showed her. After this conversation, the young Duchess decided to pay a visit to the real estate agent and find out everything from him. The clerk was scared at first, but then explained everything to his angry client. The real estate agent told the main character that she had rented a decent house in a suitable location for her. The owner of this dwelling has a very good reputation. He takes part in community life, and all the villagers speak highly of Dale. The young Duchess listened carefully to her real estate agent and decided that she had nowhere to go now and would have to accept the situation. So the girl returned to Dale's house, but the fears and anxiety did not leave the suspicious girl, who has been on the run for 3 years. The main character decided to keep an eye on her neighbor. Confused by the current situation, the young man is a little upset that he is an unwitting hindrance to his savior. Dale thought for a moment and said that he did not want to be a burden to the young Duchess and could live on the street for a while. The girl did not like this idea at all and immediately began to protest against it. The young man said that there was no need to worry about him. He would be able to find some temporary shelter for himself in no time. The main character listened attentively to her interlocutor and thought about the fact that she could not kick the owner of the house out of his own property. It would be too cruel and cynical on the part of the girl. Suddenly, the conversation of the young people was interrupted by a loud knock on the front door. The main character and her interlocutor were very surprised by this, because they did not expect any guests. Enya Lockhart asked Dale if he was expecting anyone at this hour. The young man replied that he wasn't expecting anyone. It all seemed very strange. The young man got up from the table and told his savior that he would now check who was knocking at the front door. He advised the girl to stay put. Dale carefully and quietly approached the front door and resolutely opened it to find out who was knocking on it so loudly and disturbing his peace. The young man opened the door and saw some unknown person standing in front of him, who immediately greeted him cheerfully and asked if the beautiful Miss Anna was at home. This whole situation really surprised the main character and Dale. The young people stare at the unexpected guest and can't understand what he needs here. Enya Lockhart calmed down a little and remembered that she was using the false name Anna while she was on the run. She also remembered that the words about the beautiful lady were a password that would show that there was a friend in front of the young Duchess. The cheerful stranger saw the main character and assumed that she was the beautiful Lady Anna, whom he had come to serve because he was a mid-level mercenary. These words puzzled Dale, who did not understand what was going on. The mercenary added that he had official documents that confirmed his identity and good intentions towards the young Duchess. The main character looked closely at the cheerful stranger and thought that he would have to be paid a salary, and also that this bodyguard would need to be placed somewhere. This puzzled the girl very much. The confused Duchess looks at her potential bodyguard and Dale, thinking that her budget is very limited right now, so she won't be able to pay the mercenary for his services. The master of the house gradually began to understand what was happening here. He closely watches the young Duchess and waits for her answer to the mercenary. The main character decided to ask the mercenary directly whether she should pay for his services or if they have already been paid for by someone. This is an important question on which the girl's decision will depend. The cheerful stranger replied to the young Duchess that she would have to pay for his services and that he had no accommodation in Greenwald, so he still needed to be provided with lodging. The main character listened attentively to the mercenary and quickly approached him. After that, the young Duchess shook the man's hand and said that she wanted to cancel the order immediately. These words greatly puzzled the bodyguard. After this, the girl sent the mercenary out and quickly closed the door behind him so that he would not ask unnecessary questions. The main character was left alone with the owner of the house and immediately had an interesting idea. It seems that the girl understood how to solve the problem with the bodyguard who would protect her from the Emperor's persecution. The young Duchess approached Dale and said that she had an interesting proposition for him that could be useful for both of them. The young man said that he would be happy to listen to the girl's proposal. The main character thought about the situation for a few moments and realized that she, unlike her maid, would now have to carefully calculate her budget. Enya Lockhart thought about the mercenary she had sent away because he would have cost her too much. The girl urgently needed to figure out how she could solve this problem in another way. After that, the main character looked around and asked Dale if she needed to register in this house according to the new law. The owner of the house answered that it was not necessary to do so if he continued to live here. The girl also remembered that she had found a keychain on Dale when he was unconscious, which indicated that he was a top-ranking mercenary. This led the main character to the idea that her recent patient was an ideal candidate for a bodyguard. The final argument in Dale's favor was that he was an excellent cook. Enya Lockhart had already had the chance to see this for herself. Having thought it over carefully, the girl turned to the owner of the house she rented with an important request. The young man listens attentively to his interlocutor. The main character looked Dale in the eye and said that she wanted to make him her mercenary, if he, of course, had nothing against it. The girl would pay him separately for housing. The young Duchess decided to have a little impromptu negotiation with the young man and sat him down at the table to discuss the situation. After that, the girl put a bag of gold coins in front of Dale and said that this would be payment for his future work. The young man looked closely at the amount of gold coins that the main character offered him for the mercenary job. He immediately realized that the girl was hiding from someone. That's why she needed a bodyguard. The girl decided to be honest with Dale and said that she was hiding from a very powerful man. The young man listened attentively to the young Duchess and thought about her words. The main character said that she was offering Dale additional compensation because this was a very difficult and responsible task on which her life and future destiny depended. The young man replied that the young Duchess's order was very difficult to fulfill, so he needed to think it over carefully in order to make the right decision. Dale paused for a moment to think about his interlocutor's offer. After that, he said that he wanted to know all the details of the order offered to him. The young man promised to keep this information a complete secret. The main character looked at her interlocutor and smiled meaningfully. The girl is very glad that her offer interested Dale, and he did not refuse it right away. The young Duchess thought for a moment and said that she wanted to hire Dale and sign a contract with him for 364 days. The young man was to become the main character's husband for that entire time. Enya Lockhart laid out her proposal to the young man and thought that even the powerful emperor would not dare touch her if he found out that she was married to another man. When Dale listened attentively to his interlocutor's proposal of a fictitious marriage, he suddenly tensed up and almost spilled his tea. This seemed a little suspicious to the main character, but she did not attach much importance to it. The young Duchess added that it would be a fictitious marriage that would last only 1 year. After that, the mercenary would receive his full reward and would be completely free. There is a specific reason why Enya Lockhart wants to enter into a fictitious marriage for exactly 1 year. It has to do with the new laws on marriage and divorce that have recently been passed in the Empire. If the girl does not marry the man who proposed to her within a certain period of time, the engagement will be considered invalid. The main character decided to be completely frank with her interlocutor so that he would have an idea of the work that lay ahead of him. The girl said that she had been on the run for 3 years and was hiding from a very dangerous and powerful man. The young Duchess's interlocutor asked who was pursuing her, but the girl replied that she would not say this yet, because the young man had not yet accepted her proposal. The young man thought about the words of his interlocutor and covered his face with his hand as a sign that he needed a little time to make an important decision. The main character looked at her interlocutor carefully and rose from the table. The girl took the bag of money that she had just shown to the young man and said that he had some time to think about her offer. The young man did not think long. He grabbed the main character by the hand and said that he would gladly accept her offer and become the girl's fictitious husband for a year. Enya Lockhart didn't expect to get an answer from her interlocutor so quickly. The girl looks intently into the eyes of the young man and tries to understand whether she can trust him 100%. That same day, the main character and her fictitious fiancé decide to go to the temple to formalize their relationship. Enya Lockhart gives Dale instructions so that no one will suspect anything when they get married. According to the legend that the girl came up with, she returned to Dale to renew their previous relationship, which was broken due to the fault of their parents. Now the priest who will conduct the wedding ceremony will be able to get answers to his questions from the bride and groom. These answers will match, and the minister of the church will not suspect anything. The main character decided to tell her fictitious fiancé that she is an aristocrat from the Lockhart family who is being pursued by the emperor himself, F. Aubrey Blanche Ikeston. The young man listened attentively to his interlocutor and was very surprised by her words. Dale remains calm and collected, but the young man tells his interlocutor that he is a little worried and is aware of all the risks he is taking. The girl is pleased to hear this and tries to calm him down. The main character said that if something happens to her fictitious fiancé, she will not leave him in trouble and will do everything in her power for him. These words surprised the young man very much. Dale cannot believe that a girl he has known for only a few hours will risk something for him and do a lot for him. The young man began to get nervous again. Enya Lockhart noticed this and thought about how Dale's voice was shaking now when he spoke about how pleasant it would be to feel the care of the young Duchess. A few minutes later, the carriage arrived at the temple, which is loyal to young people who decide to get married secretly. Dale helped his fictitious bride out of the carriage. The main character continues her instructions. She tells all the details of the fictitious groom and his bride's fictional biography. The young man listened attentively to Enya Lockhart and said that he found this fictional story very sweet and romantic. After that, the young man smiled at his interlocutor and almost stopped being nervous. The girl looks at her fictitious fiancé with surprise. For a moment, the main character thought that Dale had started flirting with her a little to earn her favor. After that, Enya Lockhart took her companion's arm and leaned against him. The girl said that she had not expected to see a real romantic in Dale. This could be used to mislead the priest. The main character added that Dale would have to tell the priest that he was a high-ranking mercenary from the Blacktail Guild. This mercenary guild is located far from the county of Greenwald in the north of the Empire. Therefore, the priest will definitely not guess anything and will not be able to suspect anything. Enya Lockhart asked her fiancé what he would tell the cleric about the reason for his arrival in the south of the Empire. This detail also needed to be thought out to the smallest detail. Dale listened attentively to his interlocutor, thought for a moment, and replied that he had a wonderful excuse for his arrival to the south of the Empire. The young man would tell the priest that during his service in the north of the state he had an accident. That was why he had to come to the south. The main character looked at Dale intently and told him that he had thought of everything very well, and that everything would definitely work out for him. These words greatly encouraged the young man. The young man headed toward the temple, but Enya Lockhart stopped him abruptly. The girl grabbed her fictitious fiancé by the hand and said that she still wanted to know something about him. This surprised Dale very much. After that, the main character looked her interlocutor in the eyes and asked if he was currently dating another girl. This question left the young man not only confused, but also in a state of mild shock. The young man immediately collected his thoughts and replied that he did not have a girlfriend and was not dating anyone. Enya Lockhart need not worry about this. The main character listened attentively to the young man, and his answer finally calmed her down. After that, the girl said that now she was absolutely ready to enter into a fictitious marriage with Dale. A few minutes later, the young people appeared before the priest. The main character said that she came to the temple to conclude a secret marriage with her fiancé. The girl also prepared a bribe for the church minister if any unexpected troubles arose with him. The priest listened attentively to Enya Lockhart and gladly accepted her gift of a bag of jewels. The minister of the church does not object to the marriage of young people who ran away from their parents for the sake of their love. A few moments later, the priest invited the bride and groom to go to a place specially designated for the wedding ceremony. Enya Lockhart looked closely at her companion, and for a moment it seemed to her that Dale was petrified with fear and excitement, but he did not show this to the main character at all. The minister of the church opened the door to the bride and groom, which leads to the altar of the temple. After that, the priest invited his companions to follow him to perform the wedding ceremony. The young people, without thinking twice, proceeded to the church altar to marry each other. The main character looks around and admires the beauty of the temple. The officiant took his place at the altar and asked the bride and groom if they were ready to make their vows to each other. This question puzzled Enya Lockhart and Dale a little, but the main character quickly came to her senses and said that she was ready to give the ritual oath to her fiancé. Dale responded in the same way as his fictitious bride. The wedding ceremony continued. The young man looked at his bride and said that he had been waiting for this day for a long time. Now his dream would finally come true. These words puzzled the main character a little. Maybe Dale was overacting a little while playing the role of the groom. The girl looked around once more and realized that at the moment there was not a single parishioner in the temple who could be a guest at her wedding. This saddened the young duchess a little. This was not how she had imagined her happiest day in her life. Meanwhile, the church minister finished the wedding ceremony and declared the newlyweds officially husband and wife. The main character looked at Dale carefully and noticed that he was very happy about this. From the outside, it really seems that this marriage was concluded out of great love. As the young people left the temple, Enya Lockhart told Dale that he was a great actor. But be that as it may, now the fictitious spouses must take care of each other for a year. Suddenly, the main character remembered that she had forgotten her cloak in the church building. The newly minted husband volunteered to return to the temple and pick up the cloak of his wife that had been left there. Enya Lockhart watched Dale leave and thought that he was a very courteous and considerate man. These qualities in a person really appealed to the main character. The young man returned to the temple and immediately found the priest who performed the marriage ceremony. Dale then followed the church minister until he led him to the room where the marriage certificates were kept. The priest noticed the young man's presence in the wrong place and asked him what he wanted there. Dale looked at the priest and said that he had urgent business. At the same time, the young man's gaze became very contemptuous and imperious. There was no trace left of the former good-natured and gentle mercenary. He had changed greatly at that moment. The young man looked at the priest and said that he urgently needed his marriage certificate. The cleric did not object and handed the young man the document he asked for. The newlywed husband opened the marriage certificate and read it carefully. After that, the young man decided to correct the mistake he had found in the document the priest had given him. With one stroke of the pen, the young man crossed out Dale's name and wrote in the full name of the emperor, whose name is Fabry Blanche Ikeston. These actions shocked the priest. He immediately began to protest against such unheard-of impudence and permissiveness. No one has the right to edit official documents or use the name of the ruler of the empire, except the sovereign himself. The priest asked the young man how he dared to use the name of the imperial family for his own purposes. This was a criminal case that could end in the death of the impudent man. The young man listened attentively to the cleric, put the marriage certificate on the table, and put his right hand in his breast pocket to take out something important from there. After this, the young man took a gold ring with the imperial signet from his inside pocket and placed it on the table in front of the church minister. He said that this should be enough for the cleric to understand everything and calm down. The priest froze in place. He understood everything at once. Before him now stood the great emperor Fabry Blanche Ikeston. The corrupt priest looks closely at the aristocrat and understands that by the will of fate, he has found himself in a very bad situation. The cleric is confused and does not know what to do now. The emperor looks at the confused priest with malicious glee. He said that even a corrupt cleric should know his master by sight. After this, the ruler of the empire added that if the cleric wanted to save his life, he must immediately complete the marriage registration and accept the changes that the young aristocrat had made to the marriage certificate. The priest listened attentively to his master and said that he would immediately carry out all his orders. After that, the cleric took the marriage certificate and confirmed all the changes. The emperor was pleased with the actions of the frightened priest. A minute later, the ruler of the empire said that the cleric should immediately forget about everything that had just happened and henceforth consider him an ordinary mercenary and call him Dale. If a church minister does not want to be left without a head, then he should carry out the emperor's order and make sure that no one ever finds out about it. The young aristocrat finished his business in the temple and took his wife's cloak, which she had forgotten in the wedding hall. After that, the emperor headed for the exit of the building. The cleric bowed before the ruler of the empire and said that he would definitely fulfill all his orders, and the sovereign should not worry about it. The emperor looked back and looked with disdain at the corrupt cleric. The young aristocrat said nothing to the cleric. The emperor again took the form of the main character's young husband, whom she hired to be her fictitious husband for 1 year. The fake mercenary Dale headed towards the exit of the temple and thought that his wedding was over, and he was very happy that he had achieved his goal. Enya Lockhart had finally become the official wife of Emperor F. Aubrey Blanche Eckiston. When the young man left the church, he immediately saw his young wife and thought that now this girl was his official spouse, so he would behave properly. After that, Dale approached the main character and straightened her bow. The girl really liked that the young man showed her great attention and courtesy. Enya Lockhart smiles and does not suspect that now in front of her is the man from whom she ran away for 3 years. Ironically, this young aristocrat has now become her official husband. Dale looks intently at his young wife and thinks that he will never let her go again, and from now on and forever remain by her side. The main character thanked her newlywed husband for returning her cloak, which she had forgotten in the temple. After that, the newlyweds got into the carriage and headed home. It turned out that the young couple had been secretly watched by local aristocrats who were walking near the temple. One of the girls asked the other if she recognized young Dale, who lives on a hill in Greenwald County. One of the noblewomen, whose name is Lady Adeline, answered her friend that it was indeed Dale in the company of a beautiful girl. All this is very strange, because the young man was always distinguished by his secrecy and love of solitude. Another friend of Lady Adeline said that Dale and his companion had visited a temple where secret marriages were often held. Perhaps these young people had secretly married. These words angered another girl, who said that this could not be. The next morning came. The main character and her young husband woke up and saw that someone had given them many gifts for their wedding. The girl realized that in this provincial area, news spread very quickly. Enya Lockhart thinks that all these gifts that she found in the kitchen were given to her by the locals, who greatly respect and love Dale, who is popular among them. The young man noticed that his young wife was a little embarrassed by the large number of various gifts that she did not expect to see in her kitchen. The young man asked the girl to forgive him for all these inconveniences. After that, the newlyweds sat down at the table to have breakfast. Dale said that he was not very popular in Greenwald County, but the main character did not agree with him and said that the gifts she received showed the opposite. Enya Lockhart thought that Dale's popularity among the locals could play a bad joke on her and attract unnecessary attention to her. The main character would be much better off if everyone forgot about her husband soon. The girl continues to reflect on the situation. Enya Lockhart thought that she could use the popularity of her fictitious husband to her advantage if she did everything right. The main character knows from the original novel that Greenwald County has enormous natural resources that many aristocrats of the empire want to get their hands on. The girl also knows that in this area there is a huge field where medicinal herbs grow. This field belongs to the famous Duke Hexagon. Enya Lockhart remembered not having seen this field when she had driven from the temple where she had married the mercenary Dale. This struck her as very strange. The main character asked her husband if all these gifts could have been made by people who served Duke Hexagon. Dale replied that it most likely was not them. Otherwise, he would have known about it. Enya Lockhart put her fork down on her plate and told Dale that she had a small but very important request. The young man replied that he was listening attentively to the young duchess. The main character smiled sweetly at her obliging husband and said that she wanted to rent some free land for herself to do some farming. These words surprised the young man a little. Dale asked his interlocutor what she was going to grow on the land she wanted to rent. The girl avoided a direct answer and said that she needed a plot of land near the estate of Duke Hexagon and the forest that is called Ginkgo. The main character's husband listened to her attentively and immediately got up from the table to fulfill the girl's request. Dale said that he would try to find a suitable plot of land for the young Duchess that very day. The girl thanked the young man and wished him luck. Dale said that he would return early today, closer to the evening, when he had finished all the work. The main character smiled sweetly at her fictitious husband and waved goodbye. After that, the girl thought that contract husbands are very reliable. After Dale left, Enya Lockhart looked around and thought that she needed to clean the house, because no one had cleaned it for a long time. Now was the time. Some time passed, and someone knocked on the door of the main character's estate. Enya Lockhart found it a little strange, because she was not expecting any guests now. Maybe it was someone who came to visit Dale. The main character is cleaning the house. The girl heard an unexpected knock on the door and told the guest that she would open it for him now. Enya Lockhart is not very afraid of unexpected guests after her wedding with Dale. The young Duchess opened the front door and saw two unfamiliar girls standing on the threshold of her house, looking very unhappy. They did not greet the main character and immediately asked her why she had not opened the door for so long. Perhaps these aristocrats mistook Enya Lockhart for Dale's maid. The main character went out into the yard and saw that with these two ill-mannered girls there came another lady, who was standing a little to the side and watching what was happening. The girls immediately went on the attack on the young Duchess and asked her if she really married the owner of this house. Enya Lockhart listened carefully to her guests and thought that these girls were not only poorly brought up, but also did not realize what they were doing. The main character also cannot understand what is happening now, and who all these people are. The young Duchess held back her emotions and politely asked the girls why they were so interested in her marriage to Dale. This was the main character's personal business, and she was not going to involve anyone in it. Suddenly, Lady Adeline, who had been standing aside, intervened in the conversation. She calmed down her ill-mannered friends and politely addressed Enya Lockhart. The lady clarified the main character's name and said that she was pleased to meet her. The young Duchess listened attentively to Lady Adeline and asked her who she was. After that, the main character's new acquaintance introduced herself and expressed hope that she could become friends with her. Lady Adeline added that she was the daughter of Viscount Kidland and had come to invite her neighbors for a little pleasure walk. The main character listened to her interlocutor and thought that all this sounded very strange, because the Kidland family's estates are located quite far from Greenwald County. Adeline Kidland's silly friends tried to interfere in the conversation between the noble ladies again, but the lady immediately stopped their attempt and forced them to immediately shut up with one commanding gesture. The main character's new acquaintance said that she is a relative of Count Greenwald, so she often visits these blessed and beautiful places, which have a beneficial effect on her health and mood. After this, Lady Adeline Kidland added that she wanted to invite Enya Lockhart and her husband to a formal tea party that would take place tomorrow. The girl took out an invitation card and handed it to the main character. This act delighted the friends of the young aristocrat. The young Duchess listened attentively to Lady Adeline Kidland and looked at her intently. The girl does not trust this young aristocrat who only wants to appear good. Her behavior is deceitful and hypocritical. Adeline Kidland still holds the invitation letter outstretched as the protagonist considers whether to accept it. The Viscountess asks again if Enya Lockhart will be attending the formal tea party tomorrow. The main character thought that Adeline Kidland wanted to invite her to tea to humiliate her in front of everyone. But the girl decided to accept this challenge. She smiled at her interlocutor and said that she would gladly accept the Viscountess's invitation. When Dale returned home, he told his wife that he had found a beautiful piece of land for her to rent. This news made the main character happy. After that, the girl told her fictitious husband that she was going to tea with Adeline Kidland. The young aristocrat smiled mysteriously and said that his wife could take any of the dresses that were in the house for this event. Enya Lockhart asked her interlocutor where all those dresses and accessories she found in the closet while cleaning came from. Perhaps he had lived in this house with his lover before. The young man was a little embarrassed and answered his wife that all these things were left by his younger sister, who used to live in this house. One day there came a time when she had to move out of this house urgently, so she left all her clothes here. After that, Dale added that the main character has nothing to worry about. She can use all the dresses in the wardrobe with a clear conscience and not think about the fact that they were worn by the previous lover of the young aristocrat. These words made the girl happy, and she laughed. After that, Enya Lockhart said that she would be happy to use the dresses that were left in this house without an owner. The action takes place at the estate of Viscountess Adeline Kidland, who is very upset that she has little time left to prepare for a special dinner party. The young aristocrat came into her sister Sophia's room and told her that she was going to do something original, something the province had never seen before. These words puzzled Lady Adeline's sister very much. After this, the Viscountess thought for a moment and said that the low-born Enya Lockhart, who dared to take Dale away from her, would pay dearly for her impudence. The whole district would laugh at her. The next day, the main character and her husband decide to inspect the lands that Enya Lockhart is going to rent for growing medicinal herbs. They are located near Lord Greenwald's estate. The young Duchess really liked these lands. They are very large and inexpensive. This suits the girl who's going to take up farming. Dale listened carefully to his wife and pointed to Lord Greenwald's estate. The young man said that there were bad rumors about these lands. People said that there was some kind of curse that was draining the land and their owner, who took to his bed because of it. The main character looked at the map of the area and realized that this was the plot of land she wanted to rent. The girl is not at all afraid of any curse that the locals talk about. Enya Lockhart is occasionally disturbed only by a strange, unpleasant smell that can be felt here. All this is very strange and requires immediate investigation. The young Duchess asked her husband for the shovel he brought with him. She wants to check the quality of the land she wants to rent for planting medicinal herbs. The main character thanked her husband for his help and was again surprised by his fantastic thoughtfulness. Sometimes the girl thinks that Dale reads her thoughts. Enya Lockhart was about to dig the earth, but her husband stopped her. He said that first they needed to do something so that the girl wouldn't get dirty. The main character was a little confused. After this, the young aristocrat took off his cloak and offered it to his wife as a bedding. The young man knows that Enya Lockhart will soon be going to a party, so she needs to be clean. Dale laid his coat on the muddy ground and said that everything was now ready for his wife to start checking the quality of the soil. The main character is very grateful to her husband for his concern. The main character decided to immediately take advantage of Dale's offer and stood on his cloak to avoid getting dirty. The girl first tried to somehow object to this, because she felt sorry for the young aristocrat's cloak. But the young man rejected all her objections and said that for him it was a mere trifle. After that, Dale put gloves on his wife's hands so that she wouldn't get hurt or dirty, and told her that she could begin implementing her plan. The girl took a shovel and began to dig shallowly. Enya Lockhart loosens the soil and studies it carefully, trying to analyze its quality. Dale watches his wife closely. He enjoys watching the young Duchess work. A few minutes later, the main character finished her manipulations with the soil and the shovel. The girl smiled mysteriously and said that now everything was clear to her. Her assumptions were confirmed. Enya Lockhart said that the soil below smells good, but the top layer smells bad because it is saturated with some kind of microorganisms. That is why Lord Hexagon has not yet bought this land, and this is very lucky. The main character was happy that now she would be able to rent this land without any problems, which would produce excellent harvests in the future if it was properly looked after. Dale looked at his wife carefully and said that now this land belonged to Viscount Kidland, so all matters should be addressed to him. These words surprised the girl. After that, the young aristocrat helped the Duchess to her feet. Enya Lockhart thought that now she needed to establish contact with Lady Adeline Kidland in order to obtain the rights to this land. But apparently, it would be difficult to do. The young Duchess promised herself that she would not miss this plot of land for anything in the world, which promised to become a source of great wealth if invested in correctly. Enya Lockhart has decided to return to the estate to prepare for a soirée at Viscountess Kidland's. She must speak to the young aristocrat herself to find out everything. After some time, the main character went to the estate of Count Greenwald to attend a dinner party at Lady Adeline Kidland. Dale helped his wife out of the carriage and said that they had arrived on time for the party the young Viscountess was throwing. Enya Lockhart thanked her fictitious husband for his help. Dale was a little embarrassed and said that for him it was a pleasant trouble that did him credit. The young couple were noticed by the Viscountess's friends and immediately began to discuss them. One of the aristocrats said that she had never seen Dale so happy in the presence of another girl. After this, the Viscountess looked closely at the newlyweds and added that, apparently, the marriage between Dale and Enya Lockhart was concluded by mutual consent. Lady Adeline Kidland walked towards her guests and greeted them politely. The main character also greeted the hostess of the party and thanked her for the invitation. The young Duchess noticed that the Viscountess was keeping an eye on Dale. This angered the main character a little, and she decided to tease Lady Adeline Kidland a little. The girl pretended to be sick in the carriage and fainted. Dale immediately gave his wife first aid. After that, The main character pretended that she felt much better after the young aristocrat took care of her. All these psychological manipulations made the Viscountess very angry. She covered her face with a fan so as not to show her true emotions. After that, Dale kissed his wife's hand and decided to take his leave. The young man said that it was time for him to take care of his business, and he planned to see his wife in the evening. Lady Adeline Kydland demonstratively turned away from the cooing newlyweds and said that the time for celebration had come, and it was time for the main character to go to the estate to join the guests. The Viscountess quickly headed to her house. Her friend tries to keep up with her, but it is difficult for her. The main character carefully watches this picture, which amuses her. Adeline Kydland slammed the front door of her house open. This startled her sister Sophia. The aristocrat is now very upset that Dale did not choose her as his wife. It turned out that the Viscountess not only scared her sister, but also injured her when she opened the door. Now the unfortunate Sophia is sitting on the floor and crying in pain. Suddenly, the main character ran into the room and rushed to the injured sister of the Viscountess. Enya Lockhart asked Sophia if everything was okay. The young Duchess saw that Sophia's nose was bleeding. The girl took her handkerchief and began to provide first aid to her charge. The main character noticed Sophia's old and worn clothes, and at first thought that in front of her was a maid who worked in this estate. The Viscountess stares at her sister and the main character. She tells Sophia that she behaves terribly and is always underfoot. That's why she has to suffer. But Lady Adeline had to restrain her anger in the presence of her guest. She gave her sister her hand and said that she urgently needed to go to her room to rest. Sophia thanked the Viscountess and asked her if she could stay in her room. These words embarrassed the aristocrat, but she did not show it. The girl said that Sophia could stay in her room as long as she wanted. The Viscountess began to act like a caring sister to her guest. She told Sophia that she needed to have her wounds tended and that she needed to go to her room immediately to regain her strength. The main character realized that in front of her now was the younger sister of the Viscountess, whom she oppressed and did not respect. This situation puzzled Enya Lockhart. The young Duchess was very unhappy that Lady Adeline Kydland was bullying her younger sister Sophia and not allowing her to attend the tea party. After this, one of the Viscountess's friends said that it was time for all the guests to go to the drawing room to begin the tea party for which everyone had gathered. No one paid any attention to Sophia anymore. The aristocrats who had gathered at the estate decided to go to the living room and began to have fun, drink tea, and gossip. The main character carefully watches everything that is happening here. Enya Lockhart was a little disappointed by this boring and banal event, which makes her sleepy. The girl expected to see something more cheerful today. The Viscountess and her friend are loudly discussing Dale and his wife. They do this specifically to tease Enya Lockhart. The young Duchess listens to this gossip and does not react to it in any way. After this, Lady Adeline's friends decided to give her presents because it was her birthday today. The girls fawn on the aristocrat and try to please her in every possible way. The Viscountess turned to the main character and said that she had very nice friends. Enya Lockhart realized that the aristocrat wanted to put her in a bad light because she did not warn her that it was her birthday today. The Duchess arrived without a gift. One of the Viscountess's friends asked what gift Enya Lockhart had prepared for the birthday girl. The main character looks at the girl intently and thinks about what to answer. The main character thought for a moment and smiled mysteriously. The girl decided that it was time for her secret weapon, which she had saved especially for such cases. The Viscountess watches the events closely and pretends to defend Enya Lockhart. She asks her friends not to judge the young Duchess too harshly. But the main character did not lose her head. The girl took out one thing from her bag, which will serve as a gift for the cunning Viscountess on her birthday today. The young Duchess has her own plan to get out of this unpleasant story. Enya Lockhart smiled sweetly at the wily aristocrat and congratulated her on her birthday, handing her a red box with a gift that promises to be very intriguing. The Viscountess and her friends did not expect such a development of events. The aristocrat accepted the gift of the main character and thanked her for her foresight and attention to her person. Enya Lockhart continues to smile sweetly at her interlocutor. She pretends that nothing special is happening and has prepared a gift for the Viscountess in advance. This behavior greatly puzzled Lady Adeline's friends. The main character had indeed prepared a gift for the Viscountess in advance. The girl remembered the events of the previous day and how she had been warned about the Viscountess's birthday. When Dale returned home, he found his wife cleaning the house. The young man praised Enya Lockhart for her efforts and asked if she had prepared a gift for the Viscountess, who was hosting a celebratory tea party the following day. The main character replied that tomorrow was a regular dinner party and a gift was not needed for it. Dale listened carefully to his wife and said that all this sounded strange because tomorrow was the Viscountess's birthday. The young man thought for a moment and added that he had already been invited to the Viscountess's birthday party. Therefore, he knew the exact date of the event. Dale found it very strange that his wife had not been warned about it. The main character said that Lady Adeline had deliberately not said that she would have a birthday tomorrow. She needed this to humiliate the Duchess in front of her friends. Dale replied that he would now bring a gift that could be given to the Viscountess tomorrow. The young man quickly went up to the second floor and returned a few minutes later with a thing that could serve as a wonderful gift for the cunning aristocrat who decided to humiliate the main character. Dale showed his wife the jewel that she was to give to the Viscountess tomorrow. Enya Lockhart froze in surprise and confusion when she saw what an expensive thing the young man had just brought her. The young aristocrat said that he had received the jewel as payment for one of his previous orders, but now he had no need for it, so Enya Lockhart could take it and give it to the Viscountess for her birthday. The next day has come, and now the main character is carefully watching Lady Adeline to track her real reaction to the gift that the young Duchess gave her. The Viscountess opened her gift and was very happy when she saw it. The aristocrat really liked the medallion that the main character gave her, but Lady Adeline decided to tease the young Duchess. She said that she preferred larger pieces of jewelry that suited her better, and this locket seemed too small for the aristocrat, and she did not know if she would ever be able to wear it. The main character listened attentively to the Viscountess. The girl continues to smile sweetly at her, pretending not to notice her mockery. The young Duchess must pass this test with honor at any cost. Suddenly, one of the Viscountess's friends got up from the table and approached the birthday girl. She looked at the medallion that the main character had given Lady Adeline and froze in surprise. After this, the girl's eyes sparkled greedily, and she informed the Viscountess that this medallion was a priceless treasure that was worth a fortune, and perhaps had no exact price at all because of its exclusivity. The Viscountess's friend is from an aristocratic family that has long been involved in trade, so she understands jewelry. The girl asked for a minute to see the medallion better. After that, she said that this jewelry is called the Angel's Horn. It is priceless. Lady Adeline is shocked by this information. The girl holds the angel horn in her hands and walks towards the main character to discuss this magnificent piece of jewelry with her. Enya Lockhart cannot understand what is happening now and why everyone is so excited. The Viscountess's friend was very interested in the medallion. She approached the main character and said that she would like to discuss this precious thing with her. The young Duchess was very puzzled and did not know what to say to her now. The aristocrat's eyes sparkle with delight as she looks at the angel horn. The girl declared that this medallion is genuine. Such a treasure simply cannot be counterfeited. After this, the Viscountess's friend added that no aristocrat in her right mind would ever refuse such a gift. This medallion is only allowed to be worn by the best representatives of the human race. Lady Adeline listened attentively to her friend, and her hands began to tremble with anger and helplessness. The Viscountess suddenly realized that she had failed to disgrace and humiliate Enya Lockhart today. The main character looked closely at the Viscountess's friend and realized that she could find a secret ally in this girl, because in fact, she had just stood up for Enya Lockhart. The young Duchess continues to study her unexpected protector. She thinks that this aristocrat is not as simple as she may seem at first glance. It is necessary to clarify this urgently. The evening party at the Viscountess's ended successfully for the main character. 2 days passed, and her unexpected ally came to visit her, who was very interested in the priceless medallion. The guest immediately began to stare at Dale because he seemed to her to be a very handsome young man. The main character did not like this, and asked the girl not to do it. The aristocrat immediately apologized to the young Duchess and got down to business. She offered the main character a trade deal. The Viscountess's friend wants to buy a precious locket from the main character because Lady Adeline refused it. Enya Lockhart listened attentively to her guest and looked intently at the confused Dale. The girl cannot understand how a simple young man got such an expensive, precious medallion. The main character answered her guest that she was not going to sell the angel horn to anyone yet, but she could think about the offer from such an interested girl. Enya Lockhart took a close look at her unexpected patron at the Viscountess's birthday party and decided to sell her a precious locket to win her friendship. The main character smiled at the guest and said that she was ready to lower the price of the precious medallion for the sake of their future friendship. The girl also asked to tell her more information about Greenwald County. The Viscountess's friend listened carefully to the main character and said that she was from other places, so she would not be able to tell anything useful about Greenwald County. The aristocrat put her cup of tea on the table and added that she could tell a little about Lord Greenwald. He was currently bedridden for very strange reasons that confused many. The girl thought for a moment and said that she did not know where to begin her story about the Greenwald and Kidland families. Fortunately, the aristocrat had brought a map with her, which would help her explain everything to the young Duchess in a popular way. The main character's guest unfolded the map of the empire and leaned over it. She said that originally the county of Greenwald and the lands of the Kidland family were united into one whole and belonged to one noble lord. Several generations ago, Count Greenwald granted the title of Marquis to the head of the Kidland family, who was his younger relative. After that, the lands of the county were divided between two aristocratic families. From now on, Marquis Kidland became a loyal comrade of Count Greenwald and always helped him resist the attacks of monsters that lived near their common possessions. But one day, the monsters caught Count Greenwald by surprise and wounded him. Now the lord is constantly in his bed, and the members of the Kidland family take care of him. The main character's new friend finished her story and added that some aristocrats find Lord Greenwald's injury and illness very strange. They doubt the veracity of this information. The girl pointed again to the map she was bending over and said that in return for their help, the Kidland family had received some of Count Greenwald's lands, which they had long claimed. No one knows why the Kidland family needs these poor lands that emit a terrible smell. The main character said that she would be able to find out the whole truth about it if her new friend would also do her a favor when the right time came. The girl gladly accepted the young Duchess's offer. After that, the aristocrats formed an alliance and agreed to ask for help when needed. It was a great move on the part of the main character. After the guest left, Dale treated his wife to hot cocoa. The main character thanked her temporary husband and asked what he used to do when he worked at Lord Greenwald's estate. The young man replied that he was managing the abandoned hunting grounds in case the monsters wanted to attack the Count's lands again, and went on the attack. It was an important job. The main character looked closely at the young man and thought that he would not be able to single-handedly resist the squads of bloodthirsty monsters who would want to attack the Count's estate. After this, Enya Lockhart asked her fictitious husband to take her with him to Count Greenwald's estate tomorrow. Dale asked why the main character needed this. The girl smiled at her temporary husband and said that she had found an effective way to get the land that she now needed to grow medicinal herbs. The next day came. The main character arrived at Count Greenwald's estate, accompanied by her temporary husband. Enya Lockhart is very grateful to her husband for bringing her to this luxurious estate. Now the young Duchess will be able to realize her plan and get the lands she dreams of. Dale is pleased to serve his wife, but now he must urgently leave her because of important matters. The main character said that she would handle all the affairs in the Greenwald estate herself, so he could leave if he needed to. The newlyweds agreed to meet in the evening. Enya Lockhart looks after her temporary husband, and now he seems to her like a wonderful young man with whom the girl is very lucky. The main character noticed that Lady Adeline Kidland was watching her from the window of her room. The young Duchess wondered how long the Viscountess had been watching her and what she wanted from her again. The aristocrat left her observation post and returned to her room. Lady Adeline Kidland wondered why the young Duchess had appeared at the Greenwald estate today. Perhaps she had some goals of her own. The main character entered the estate and was immediately greeted by a very kind butler who politely greeted the young lady. This surprised Enya Lockhart a little. The young Duchess looked closely at the butler and realized that he looked very much like the real estate agent who had convinced her to rent Dale's house. It all seemed strange. The main character said that she wanted to see Lord Greenwald. The butler replied that it was impossible to do so now, because the Count was very ill and bedridden. Enya Lockhart told the servant that she was there as a practicing physician who wanted to examine the sick lord and help him get back on his feet as soon as possible. These words pleased the butler very much, but after a moment of joy, the butler became sad again. Count Greenwald's faithful servant said that his master was currently unable to pay for the doctor's services. Due to the Count's illness, his affairs were currently in disarray. The butler thought for a moment and added that he even had to work part-time as a real estate agent to keep the master's estate in relative order. Now everything became clear to the main character. This servant had recently rented Dale's house to her. Enya Lockhart looked at her interlocutor and said that she could wait to pay her doctor's fee. But the butler again protested against charity. The main character doesn't want to hear anything about it. The girl said that she has everything with her to cure Count Greenwald of his illness today and get him back on his feet. The butler moderated his pride and stopped resisting. He allowed the main character to go to Count Greenwald's room. In the sick aristocrat's chambers, the young Duchess met Viscountess Sophia. This meeting surprised the main character a little, but she quickly controlled her emotions and did not show that anything was bothering her. Enya Lockhart greeted Lady Sophia politely and said that she was very glad to see her here. Now the main character wants to carefully examine the sick Count Greenwald in order to give him an accurate diagnosis. The main character began examining the sick aristocrat. Meanwhile, the butler explained to Lady Sophia that Enya Lockhart was a practicing doctor and wanted to help their master. The young Duchess examined Count Greenwald and again smelled the familiar, unpleasant odor that emanated from the aristocrat. After that, the main character asked Lady Sophia how long the Count had been in such a deplorable state. The young Viscountess listened attentively to the doctor and burst into tears. The girl thought for a moment and said that the unfortunate Count had lost consciousness 3 months ago and had not regained consciousness since then. Enya Lockhart listened to her interlocutor and said that too much time had passed, but it was worth trying the treatment. It certainly wouldn't make Count Greenwald worse. After that, the main character opened her medical case and started looking for something in it. A few seconds later, the young Duchess took out a bottle of medicine from her bag and said that she had an excellent remedy that would definitely help Count Greenwald. Lady Sophia looked closely at the medicine that the main character was holding in her hand. After that, the Viscountess asked if it was a reliable remedy, because nothing helped the Count. The main character did not answer this question. The girl only began to list all the symptoms that the unfortunate Count had. These words turned out to be so true that Lady Sophia and the butler were speechless from surprise. Enya Lockhart said that the young Duchess's grandfather once had the same symptoms, but she cured him in time. Therefore, it is worth starting to treat Count Greenwald immediately. Otherwise, it may be too late. Lady Sophia listened attentively to the main character and asked what her grandfather was ill with. The Viscountess is very interested to know the reasons for such a strange and sudden illness of the Count. The main character thought for a moment and said that, in fact, it was not a disease in the usual sense of the word. It was a different kind of malaise. Enya Lockhart paused for a moment and said that her grandfather did not fall ill with some unknown disease. He was poisoned by enemies. Therefore, it is logical to conclude that Lord Greenwald was also poisoned by someone and is now suffering from it. Lady Sophia heard these words and immediately ran up to the main character. The girl began to beg her to do everything to save her grandfather, who is Count Greenwald. The Viscountess added that she had no one left after the death of her biological parents, who had an accident in their carriage. The main character listened attentively to Lady Sophia and hurried to calm her down. After that, the young Duchess asked the Viscountess to follow all her recommendations that would help Count Greenwald get back on his feet. After this, Enya Lockhart uncorked the medicine bottle and asked Lady Sophia to help her. The girl and the butler must hold their master's arms and legs so that he does not twitch while the Duchess gives him the potion. The main character resolutely inserted the bottle of medicine into Count Greenwald's mouth and waited until he drank all the healing liquid. Apparently, the taste of this medicine was disgusting. The butler looked at his master suffering and asked the Duchess what she had given him to drink. The girl replied that the bottle contained special premium holy water. It could not harm a good man. The main character added that real premium holy water is an invaluable medicine that not only helps with many diseases, but also reveals evil spirits. Lady Sophia and the butler were very surprised when they learned that Enya Lockhart had such a strong medicine in stock. It is a very expensive potion that not everyone can afford. The main character understands her assistant's confusion. Premium holy water costs a fortune, which only members of high society have. After some time, Count Greenwald calmed down a little after he was given a new medicine, and it began to work. Lady Sophia immediately noticed positive changes in her grandfather's condition. She thanked the main character for the help she provided. The Viscountess bowed to Enya Lockhart and said that she did not even know how to thank her. The Duchess replied that she would remain by the Earl's side until he had completed the full course of treatment and was completely well. The butler watches the main character and Lady Sophia closely. He thinks about how Adeline Kidlin didn't even try to buy the Count premium holy water to cure him. She brushed off the idea and said that the Lord would be fine with just herbal medicine. Lady Sophia turned to the main character again. Enya Lockhart listened attentively to the young Viscountess, who said that she really wanted to thank her for treating Count Greenwald, but she had nothing to pay for it with now. The main character thought for a moment and said that Lady Sophia could pay her back with the land that the young Duchess needed now. Enya Lockhart added that she has a noble goal. She wants to rent a plot of land to grow medicinal herbs that will be used by people who cannot pay for their treatment. The butler intervened in the conversation. He said that he would be happy to help the young Duchess with the land issue, but in the county of Greenwald, there is very little cultivated land suitable for planting. The main character listened attentively to the estate manager and replied that it did not bother her at all. She needed a large plot of land that she could cultivate herself. These words surprised the butler very much. Enya Lockhart looks at the estate manager and waits for his answer. Now is a very important moment for the girl. The main character said that she wanted to rent a vacant lot, which is located near the estate of Count Greenwald and belongs to the Kidland family. The butler replied that there might be difficulties in this matter. The manager thought for a moment and suggested that the girl rent another plot of land, which was not so desolate and even had a garden. This suited the Duchess perfectly. Everyone present was very pleased with the deal. The plot that Enya Lockhart received as a reward for her medical work is located next to the Count's estate. The girl decided to look at it and admired its beauty. In addition, the main character stayed in this house for a long time and signed an employment contract as a doctor who will perform his duties here. Meanwhile, Lady Adeline Kydland stood in the corridor and secretly watched everything that was happening in Count Greenwald's room. All these events did not please the cunning aristocrat very much. Apparently, her long-term plans were disrupted by the main character. The enraged Viscountess clenched her fists in anger and thought that she needed to do something urgently. Otherwise, the situation for the insidious aristocrat was becoming quite precarious. Evening came. The main character returned to her home and met her husband there, who had also returned home, having completed all his important business. Enya Lockhart showed Dale her employment contract and said that not only had she secured a plot of land on the Greenwald estate, but she had also gotten a job there as a doctor. The main character's temporary husband was very puzzled by her words. The girl hastened to calm Dale down and said that she would work as a doctor at the Greenwald estate for some time and look after the recovering Count. The young man cannot understand why his wife decided to get a job. Perhaps she needs the money too much, or she is simply bored. The main character listened carefully to her temporary husband and replied that she simply wanted to help Count Greenwald and get a plot of land for it. It was a good deal for both parties. Enya Lockhart thought for a moment and added that she thought that Count Greenwald had been deliberately poisoned for some reason unknown to her. Therefore, as a doctor, she had to look after the sick lord while he was very weak and in danger. The girl said that working at the estate would help her learn the latest news from the Empire faster. Dale thought for a moment and replied that it might interest the Emperor if he learned that Enya Lockhart was in the Count's house. The young man added that if Lord Greenwald came to his senses after 3 months of comatose state, the whole Empire would know about it. The Emperor, in turn, would want to know the name of the skilled doctor who cured Count Greenwald. After this, the Emperor will want to take Enya Lockhart to his palace, and she will no longer be able to leave it, remaining forever a prisoner of the sovereign. The main character listened attentively to her temporary husband and got a little scared. His argument seemed quite reasonable to the girl. The young Duchess quickly collected her thoughts and replied to Dale that she was touched by his concern. But the thing is that Enya Lockhart has her own secret methods of avoiding the company of the mad emperor. These words puzzled the young man. The main character said that she had been hiding from her family and the sovereign who wanted to marry her for 3 years. But no one had been able to find her yet. Dale asked the girl how she had achieved this. The young Duchess smiled meaningfully at her interlocutor and said that she had learned to hide well, and also that the emperor had too many important things to do. Therefore, he had no time to look for his missing bride. Enya Lockhart confessed to her temporary husband that she had been sending the emperor various materials that could compromise the aristocrats of the empire. Let the emperor now deal with these matters and protect his throne, forgetting about his bride. The main character made a meaningful gesture with her hand and added that now the emperor would not be able to sort out all these matters anytime soon. The young Duchess laughed and said that she had hired many informants who reported to her about corrupt officials who worked in the government. The girl constantly passed this information to the emperor under a false name. While the emperor is fighting corruption in his state and strengthening his power, he does not think about the runaway bride and does not search for her. The main character does not know that in front of her now stands the Emperor Fabry Blanche Ikiston, who is hiding under the identity of a simple mercenary Dale, who volunteered to become her temporary husband. Enya Lockhart thought for a moment and added that she was doing 2 useful things at once. She was successfully hiding from her powerful pursuer and fighting corruption in the empire. Now the main character's temporary husband understood everything. He whispered to himself that everything was clear to him, but the girl did not hear his words. After that, the young man thought about Enya Lockhart's words. He had never thought before that the young Duchess was deceiving him in such a cunning way, forcing him to fight corruption in the empire. Now the sovereign understood why he had so much work lately. All this happened because of his wife. The next day, the main character began to perform her medical duties at Count Greenwald's estate. A week passed, and the sick lord began to recover. he began to feel much better. Enya Lockhart is pleased to see Lady Sophia's grandfather is feeling better. Lord Greenwald has already begun to get out of bed and take a few walks around his estate. The young Duchess expressed her hope that Lord Greenwald would soon recover completely and that he would never need her services as a doctor again. Then the girl would be able to devote herself entirely to growing crops. The main character added that the poison that poisoned Count Greenwald is very rare. It quickly penetrates the body and is then very difficult to remove, so the treatment can take quite a long time. The girl thought that it was impossible to be poisoned by such a poison naturally. This meant that Count Greenwald was definitely poisoned intentionally. But the main character could not understand who could have done it and for what purpose. Enya Lockhart looks at Lady Sophia, who is caring for her grandfather. He really doesn't like the taste of the medicine, but it must be taken on a strict schedule. To improve the taste of the potion, Lady Sophia gives the Count sweet candies. The main character left Lord Greenwald's room and thought that he could have been poisoned by a person who serves Duke Hexagon and is constantly near the Count. Now we need to find out who it could be. Suddenly, a strange guess flashed through the mind of the young Duchess that the poisoner could be Lady Adeline Kidland, who serves Duke Hexagon. As if to confirm her suspicions, the main character saw Lady Adeline trying to hide from her in the corridor. Apparently, the aristocrat was spying and eavesdropping, standing at the door that leads to Count Greenwald's room. Lady Sophia also looked out from behind the door because she heard a strange noise in the corridor. She noticed her older sister running away somewhere quickly. The young Viscountess turned to the main character and said that she was very glad to see her. The Duchess asked the girl what she wanted from her now. Lady Sophia replied that she simply wanted to thank the man who saved her beloved grandfather from certain death once again. The main character really liked these words. The young Viscountess added that Enya Lockhart had immediately determined the cause of Count Greenwald's illness. No one had been able to do this before her. After that, the impressionable girl burst into tears. Lady Sophia bowed to the main character with words of gratitude. After that, the girl said that Count Greenwald raised her from an early age and was always a very kind person. She could not imagine who could dare to harm him and poison him. Enya Lockhart asked her interlocutor what Earl Greenwald had been drinking lately. Lady Sophia replied that her sister always brewed her grandfather his favorite tea, called Cozy Flower. When the main character heard this information, she immediately realized that the poisoner of Count Greenwald was Lady Adeline Kidland. Now it is necessary to find out the reasons for this crime and find evidence. Enya Lockhart looked at Lady Sophia and told her to keep an eye on her sister. The girl had not expected this development. Could her sister really be a criminal? It was terrible. The good-natured aristocrat said that it was simply impossible. Lady Adeline could not be the Count's poisoner because he had raised her and treasured her very much. Lady Sophia was in a state of shock. She began to mechanically tug at her skirt to calm herself down a little. Lady Sophia smiled sweetly at the main character and said that she couldn't even think badly of her sister. Besides, she was her only friend. The young aristocrat laughed and said that she was saying some stupid things now, so she asked the Duchess for forgiveness for it. The main character looked at her interlocutor and said that she could consider her her friend. Now they could be friends and support each other. These words puzzled Lady Sophia. She did not expect such a development of events. The girl is very glad that she will now have another friend besides her sister. But the young aristocrat is in a state of shock. She has experienced too many emotions today, so she does not know what to answer her interlocutor, who offers her her friendship. A few seconds later, Lady Sophia came to her senses and collected her thoughts. She said that she would gladly accept the main character's offer and would support her in everything. After that, the young noblewoman shook the Duchess's hands. After that, the girl said that she wanted to show her new friend her grandfather's library. It was her favorite place in Count Greenwald's estate. The main character listened attentively to Lady Sophia and said that she would look forward to this moment. This proposal sounds very tempting to the young Duchess because she loves to read books. The girls finished their conversation and parted on a good note. The main character goes down to the first floor of the estate and thinks that Lady Sophia will be a good friend to her, who will support her in a difficult moment. Suddenly, Enya Lockhart heard a strange sound and stopped to figure out what it was and the situation. It was all very strange. The main character thought she heard Lady Adeline's voice, saying something unintelligibly. It is necessary to urgently sort out this situation, which can clarify the case of the poisoning of the Count. Lady Adeline Kidland is very upset about something. The girl complains about her fate and says that terrible events are happening in her life now. All her cunning plans are ruined thanks to the young Duchess. The main character secretly watches the Viscountess, who is not far from her. The Duchess continues to eavesdrop on Lady Adeline's emotional monologue, which she is not going to finish yet. The Viscountess is standing with some kind of red magic ball in her hands. From the outside, it seems that she is communicating with someone at a distance thanks to this magical device. Lady Adeline turned to her mysterious interlocutor and said that she could soon be exposed. The main character continues to secretly watch the Viscountess. A mysterious voice was heard from the magical communication device, asking about the health of Count Greenwald. It turned out that the Viscountess communicated with her father through a magic ball. The angry aristocrat told Viscount Kydland that the Duchess had taken her fiancé away from her, cured Count Greenwald, and interfered in their family affairs, but the Viscountess's father paid no attention to his daughter's words. Viscount Kydland is interested in some important documents that his daughter is supposed to find in the house of Earl Greenwald. Lady Adeline said that she has not found these papers yet. After that, the aristocrat again gave in to panic and said that the Duke must not know about the failure of his plan. Otherwise, he will destroy the Kydland family. The main character continues to eavesdrop on her rival's conversation with her father. Now the young Duchess knows that Duke Hexagon is also involved in the poisoning of Count Greenwald. This is important information. Viscount Kydland hastened to reassure his daughter and ordered her to urgently find important documents hidden in Lord Greenwald's estate. If the girl does this, she will have nothing to worry about in the future. The Viscountess's nerves gave out. She fell into a hysterical state and told her father that she would no longer follow his orders. Let him search for the documents he needed in the Count's house himself. After that, Lady Adeline broke the magic ball, throwing it on the floor. The angry aristocrat became very nervous and grabbed her head with her hands. The girl does not know what to do in the current situation, which has become threatening for her due to the actions of the main character. The Viscountess calmed down a little and decided that Enya Lockhart was to blame for all her troubles, having taken her fiancé away from her and upset all her plans. The main character realized that it was time for her to leave. She would not hear anything more interesting or useful from Lady Adeline, who was now in an inadequate state due to her uncontrollable anger. Enya Lockhart pondered the Viscountess's words about Duke Hexagon's plan. This is very important information that points to the customer of the poisoning of Count Greenwald. Lady Adeline left, and the main character decided to go downstairs to take a closer look at the fragments of the magic ball that the Viscountess had broken. The young Duchess picked up a red fragment of the magic ball from the floor to examine it carefully. The girl had never seen anything like it before. The main character stares at the sharp fragment of the magical means of communication. The girl thought a little about what she had just heard and came to the final conclusion that the person who ordered the murder of Count Greenwald was Duke Hexagon. Enya Lockhart knows that this famous aristocrat is the head of the old nobility faction that wants to rule the empire by subjugating the emperor. The girl remembered that in the original novel, Duke Hexagon is the main villain. His family specializes in medicinal herbs. There was a time when the Hexagon family provided all the inhabitants of the empire with the so-called panacea. This medicine, according to many people, could cure all diseases. This potion was an effective painkiller, which was available even to the poorest strata of the state's population. But panacea did not eliminate the cause of the disease. It only removed its symptoms and caused terrible addiction. The previous emperor supported the Hexagon family in everything, so he turned a blind eye to the terrible side effects of panacea and did not ban the sale of this drug. The current ruler of the empire decided to look into this matter and banned the sale of panacea. The old aristocracy opposed this. Duke Hexagon decided to enter into a fight for power with the emperor. It all ended with Duke Hexagon being defeated in this war and placed under house arrest. The emperor must decide the fate of the rebellious noble when the time is right. The main character thought that the cunning duke is a skilled manipulator. He knows how to use other people for his own purposes, so as not to dirty his hands and always stay away from his crimes. The young Duchess looked again at the fragment of the magic ball that she holds in her hand. The girl understands that her grandfather and Lord Greenwald were poisoned with the same poison. This indicates that Duke Hexagon is to blame. The main character can't accept that the treacherous Duke used his knowledge of medicinal herbs for evil purposes. A real healer shouldn't do that. Suddenly, Enya Lockhart heard Lady Sophia's voice addressing her. The main character was a little surprised because she did not expect to see her here. The young Duchess was even a little frightened by the surprise, and almost dropped the fragment of the magic ball, which she held in her hands and carefully examined, thinking about the atrocities of Duke Hexagon. The main character quickly collected the pieces of the magic ball in her handkerchief and turned to Lady Sophia. She said that she was there by chance because she dropped something. All this surprised Lady Sophia very much, but she did not ask her friend any unnecessary questions. The girl only asked her if she was hurt. The main character said that she was now completely fine. After that, the young Duchess asked Lady Sophia to show her Count Greenwald's office. It would be something like a pleasure excursion. The young Viscountess happily agreed to do it. The girls took each other's hands and immediately headed to Lord Greenwald's office to examine it carefully. A few minutes later, the main character found herself in Count Greenwald's office. The girl did not expect that there were so many different books here. It would be difficult for her to find the necessary documents in this room. Lady Sophia noticed her friend's embarrassment and said that before the decline of the Greenwald house, there were even more books here. The family is very fond of reading good books. The main character covered her face with her hand because there was a lot of dust around that got into her nose and eyes. Lady Sophia said that this office should be cleaned. The young Duchess looked around and asked her friend if Lady Adeline had ever been in this room. The young Viscountess replied that her elder sister had once come to this office, but had left it immediately because there was too much dust here. The main character thought that she was very lucky in this too. Now she would be able to find important documents here if they were hidden in this room. Enya Lockhart doesn't know where to look for these papers. Suddenly she sees something strange on the floor of the office and asks Lady Sophia what it is. The young Viscountess replied that there was a family portrait on the floor of the office that the previous head of the house had painted. But he had not managed to finish it. That is why this thing is here. The main character was interested in this portrait. She wanted to take a closer look at it. Enya Lockhart walked up to the forgotten unfinished portrait and removed the dust cover. She saw nothing special, except for the image of Lord Greenwald's family. The main character looks closely at the portrait painted by the former head of the Greenwald family. The girl thinks that these actions only distract her from searching for important documents, for which she came to this office. The young Duchess touched the portrait and found that it had some strange texture. Perhaps there was some kind of secret place here. Enya Lockhart continued to examine the portrait and felt something hard under the canvas. The main character understands that there is something hidden in this portrait. The girl achieved her goal. She was able to find the important documents that Lady Adeline had spoken about. These papers were hidden in an old portrait. The main character looked around and realized that she was very lucky, because the Count's office was very large and there were many books there. The search for the documents would have taken forever, if not for a lucky chance. Evening came. The main character took her medical bag and headed home. The girl did not even notice that it was already completely dark. Enya Lockhart looked at the starry sky and thought that she was completely overwhelmed today, because there were many different concerns. But the main thing is that she was able to find important documents of Count Greenwald, which urgently need to be studied. The main character had to use a little trickery to distract Lady Sophia. This helped the young Duchess to quietly get the documents from the old portrait and take them out of the office. Enya Lockhart walks home quietly through the forest at night and thinks about her temporary husband Dale, who came out to the hill to meet her last time. It was very sweet. Suddenly, the main character heard a strange, loud sound. For a moment, the girl thought that it was made by some wild animal. This frightened the young Duchess. Enya Lockhart tried to stop the slight trembling in her hands that had just begun due to a feeling of fear. Walking in the forest at night could end badly for a lone traveler. The main character collected her thoughts and managed to cope with her emotions. After that, the girl decided that she needed to continue her journey, no matter what, to return home. But after a few minutes, the young Duchess heard a strange sound again and noticed a mysterious glow behind her. This greatly surprised the frightened girl. Enya Lockhart can't understand what's going on here. She was walking calmly through the forest and not bothering anyone, but the situation has suddenly changed and become threatening. Maybe the young Duchess is being pursued by secret enemies who want to kill her under the cover of night in the dense forest. The main character looked back and froze in amazement. The girl saw her temporary husband, who was heading towards her and barely standing on his feet. It was all very strange. Dale took a few steps and fell to the ground, exhausted. It reminded the main character of her first meeting with her temporary husband. The girl rushed to the young man to give him first aid. Enya Lockhart doesn't understand what's going on and why Dale is in the woods at this time. She also can't understand why her temporary husband is lying unconscious on the grass. The main character hugged her husband and realized that he was burning up because of his high body temperature. Apparently, the young man has a fever now. The girl tries to bring the young man to his senses. Suddenly, Enya Lockhart discovered a burning piece of a scroll hanging in the air behind her temporary husband. The girl realized that this was the remains of a magical scroll that allows instantaneous movement in space. The main character has seen such magic scrolls before, but she can't understand why her temporary husband uses this magic. There is some secret here. The girl looked closely at the exhausted young man again and realized that all his strength had been taken away by a magic spell that allowed him to instantly move through space. After some time, the main character was able to bring her husband home. It took a lot of effort for the girl, but now Dale was safe. The young man rested a little and came to his senses, but Dale finds it hard to say every word and move because he still hasn't been able to regain his strength. The magic spell that helped the young man move through space has major side effects. The main character is taking care of her husband. The girl is very happy that Dale was finally able to come to his senses. She asked the young man how he was feeling now, but there was no answer yet because the Duchess's husband is still in a semi-conscious state. The unfortunate aristocrat lies helplessly on the bed and tries to understand where he is and what is happening to him now. Dale has a hard time coming to his senses. Only the voice of the main character gives him strength. After some time, the young man was able to come to his senses. He rose on his bed and saw Enya Lockhart next to his bed. Dale asked why the girl was in his room. The main character sat down on the bed next to her temporary husband and asked if he had been overtired lately. The thing is, Dale had lost consciousness again today, and she had to carry him into the house. These words surprised the young man. Enya Lockhart looked at her patient and said that this was the second time he had lost consciousness in a few days. This could be a very dangerous symptom. The girl was worried about Dale's health. The young nobleman listened to his wife and was a little embarrassed. After that, Dale thanked the girl for her concern and said that she had nothing more to worry about. He would be perfectly fine. The aristocrat smiled and added that he had too much work lately. He put too much pressure on himself because he wanted to take care of his wife and create the best living conditions for her by earning a lot of money. The main character listened carefully to the young nobleman and asked him why he used the magic scroll today, which allows one to move through space over long distances in a short time. Dale was a little embarrassed and replied that he had a lot of work today and he finished it too late, so he used the magic scroll to get home on time. Enya Lockhart told her temporary husband that the magical scrolls used to move through space put a lot of strain on the body of the one using them, so Dale should be careful with them. After that, the main character got out of bed and said that it was too late, and Dale should go to bed to regain his strength. The young man wished his doctor a good night. Enya Lockhart went to her room. When the girl left Dale's chambers, he began to get nervous and scold himself for having acted so rashly today. The young man's hands began to shake from excitement and annoyance at himself. The young aristocrat covered his face with his hands and thought that he had almost given himself away today. The emperor had been very close to failing his secret mission. Dale looked at the cabinet in front of him and remembered that it contained magic scrolls that help a person instantly move through space. After that, the young noble rubbed his tired eyes and thought that he had been using instant movement magic too much lately. It had negatively affected his health. It was time to think of another way to quickly travel to and from the imperial palace. Meanwhile, the main character left Dale's room and stopped near the door. The girl is somewhat confused. The story with the magic scrolls of movement puzzled her very much. Enya Lockhart thought about her temporary husband. The girl realized that he was hiding something from her because an ordinary mercenary would never use magic scrolls to move through space so often. It was all very strange and suspicious. In the heart of the main character, suspicions and confidence arose that the young aristocrat was deceiving her and that he was not as simple as he might seem at first glance. The next morning came. The weather was sunny and clear. The trees stretched their leaves toward the gentle sun to drink in the nourishing sunlight. Birds sang joyfully on their branches. Dale had had a wonderful night's sleep and was feeling refreshed after his collapse the night before. He went downstairs to have breakfast, but he stopped at the kitchen threshold, stunned. The young man saw the main character, who prepared a magnificent breakfast and invited him to the table. This surprised Dale very much, because Enya Lockhart had never done this before. The young aristocrat accepted his wife's invitation and sat down at the table without objection. The girl smiled and said that today it was her turn to cook breakfast, because Dale always did it before. The young man began to eat breakfast and liked the dish that the main character had prepared. Enya Lockhart noticed this and was pleased with this circumstance. After that, the girl began to study the documents that she had found in Count Greenwald's office yesterday. Dale saw the documents lying on the table and said that he had never seen them before. The main character replied that this was true, because these papers had only appeared in the young man's house yesterday. This is the very first contract signed by the ancestors of the Kidland and Greenwald families. The young duchess added that she had studied the contract and realized that it did not correspond to the actual state of affairs. The fact is that the Kidland family and Duke Hexagon had formed an alliance and wanted to destroy Count Greenwald. These words greatly surprised Dale. The main character said that yesterday she managed to eavesdrop on a remote conversation between Lady Adeline and her father. During this conversation, it turned out that the Kidland family is in cahoots with Duke Hexagon. After that, Enya Lockhart pointed to the documents lying on the table. She said that the plot against Lord Greenwald could be successful if the conspirators got their hands on these important papers. The main character continued her story. The thing is that the county of Greenwald and the lands of Viscount Kidland are separated by a mountain called Gonia. In this rocky area live monsters that often attack the county of Greenwald. In the past, Count Greenwald, who had a stable income from numerous mines, entered into an alliance with Viscount Kidland to protect his mines from monsters. According to the agreement, the Viscount provided his men to protect the mines, and the Count allowed his ally to extract precious stones from his mines. It was a mutually beneficial deal. But apparently, Viscount Kidland's greed got the better of his common sense. He was not satisfied with the income he was receiving, and he wanted to take over the diamond mines of Earl Greenwald by criminal means. Old Earl Greenwald died, and the contract that was made between the families disappeared somewhere. So Viscount Kidland decided to take advantage of the situation to his advantage. The main character thought for a moment and said that she compared the information from the documents and the old map she had. There were many things that didn't add up. Dale looked closely at the map his wife had shown him and realized that the old boundaries of the county of Greenwald did not match the current boundaries. Viscount Kidland had managed to appropriate a lot of other people's land. The young nobleman looked at Enya Lockhart and said that the current conflict was completely fabricated and that Duke Hexagon was involved. The Emperor now had evidence against him. The main character is very happy that Dale understood her and shares her opinion about the current situation. The girl smiled meaningfully and confirmed the young man's words. After this, the young Duchess looked closely at her interlocutor and said that Viscount Kidland had forged a new contract and was using it to rob Count Greenwald. The main character pointed to the real contract and the old map, which proves her right. It follows that Viscount Kidland and Duke Hexagon are criminals who should be punished exemplarily. Enya Lockhart also showed Dale a red stone containing a recording of Lady Adeline's conversation with her father. This is further evidence against the Viscount and his accomplice, Duke Hexagon. The main character looked at the magic stone carefully and said that Lady Adeline was very upset, so she forgot that every magic communicator has a built-in sound recording device. Maybe she didn't know it at all. The young Duchess thought for a moment and told her husband that she intended to report the results of her investigation to the Emperor in the near future, using a fictitious name. Then the criminals would be punished and Count Greenwald's affairs would quickly improve. After that, the main character looked at her husband and asked what he thought about the current situation. The girl also wondered if the Emperor would devote enough time and effort to solving this issue. Dale listened to his wife and smiled mysteriously. Enya Lockhart said that if the Emperor had not persecuted her, they could have become good collaborators in the fight against corruption in the state. After this, the girl laughed and said that she had hoped that her plan would work and that Count Greenwald would get his rightful mines and lands back into his possession. Dale listened attentively to his wife and smiled meaningfully at her. After that, the young man said that he was sure that the girl would definitely succeed. The young aristocrat would give a lot now for his wife to know that the Emperor is now next to her, who will soon solve all her problems. But the young man has decided not to reveal his true identity for now. He will act secretly. A month passed. As the main character expected, the case of Count Greenwald was resolved very quickly and smoothly. The Emperor conducted a thorough investigation and punished all those guilty of the crime against the Count. Things went up in the Greenwald estate, so new construction began here. During the investigation, it was discovered that the Greenwald family lands were poisoned by Viscount Kidland so that the Earl could not use them. In addition, Lady Adeline hypocritically pretended to be a loving relative to Lady Sophia in order to lull her vigilance and slowly poison Count Greenwald with a modified variety of his favorite tea, which is called Cozy Flower. Lady Adeline Kidland was forced to flee secretly from the estate of Earl Greenwald to avoid punishment for her terrible crimes. After the imperial investigation was completed, the land was returned and compensation was paid immediately, under the supervision of Count Greenwald's loyal steward. The main character and her husband came to visit the Count, who had already completely recovered from his illness. The newlyweds were met by the Lord's assistant, who was very happy to see such welcome guests. The steward of the estate greeted the young duchess and her husband. The girl said that the Greenwald family home looked very busy. The butler replied that it was all thanks to Enya Lockhart. Suddenly, Lady Sophia appeared and headed towards the main character. Count Greenwald's granddaughter is very happy to see her friend visiting her. Enya Lockhart is also very happy to see the young Viscountess. Lady Sophia said that she had been expecting her friend's visit for a long time to thank her for her help. After this, the young aristocrat invited the Duchess and her husband to the room of her grandfather, who also really wants to meet his savior and thank her for the services rendered. The main character entered Count Greenwald's room and saw that he was busy with serious matters and was in a thoughtful mood. This puzzled the young Duchess a little. A few moments later, the Count came out of his reverie and turned his attention to the guests who had arrived. The aristocrat was very happy when he saw Enya Lockhart, who had honored him with her visit today. The aristocrats decided to have tea and discuss the current state of affairs. Count Greenwald said that he had found among his papers a letter from his great-grandfather, who had sent it to his son. It was quite an interesting message. The nobleman added that he was very close to his grandfather. He taught Count Greenwald many things that were useful to him in life. In the letter, the great-grandfather tells his son that the south of the empire often suffers from torrential rains. Now this almost never happens. The climate has changed a little. It turns out that the Count's great-grandfather died in a landslide caused by torrential rains. Count Greenwald said that his great-grandfather also had suspicions about the Kydland family. He, too, believed that these treacherous aristocrats could not be trusted. The Count's great-grandfather mentioned this in a letter shortly before his death in a landslide. Lady Sophia listens attentively to Count Greenwald, who has just said that he, too, had some suspicions and never trusted the Kydland family. He wanted to use them for his own benefit, but almost paid with his life because of it. After this, Count Greenwald touched his granddaughter's hand and said that he was now afraid to think about what the Kydland family could have done to Lady Sophia. It was simply terrible. After this, the aristocrat turned to the main character and said that he was very grateful to her for intervening and thwarting the insidious plans of the Kydland family. In addition, Enya Lockhart demonstrated her medical talent and saved the life of Count Greenwald. The young Duchess happily accepted the gratitude of her interlocutor. Count Greenwald thought for a moment and said that he wanted to give his savior a gift. The young Duchess replied that she did not deserve such generous gratitude. In fact, Viscount Kydland and Duke Hexagon were stopped and punished by the Emperor. The owner of the Greenwald estate told the main character that Duke Hexagon once visited him and offered him a lot of money for his estate. But the Count refused the cunning aristocrat, sensing some kind of catch in his business proposal. The Lord politely declined Duke Hexagon's offers and made it clear that he would not yield to any persuasion on his part. The estate would remain the property of the Greenwald family forever. After this incident, the cunning Duke decided to use Viscount Kydland as a puppet to achieve his goals. Count Greenwald felt betrayed by the Viscount, but did not attach due importance to it. One day, a moment came when the networks of cunning schemers entangled Lord Greenwald so much that he could no longer do anything about it. In addition, the Count suddenly fell ill with some strange disease that gradually took away all his strength. The treacherous allies agreed to destroy Lord Greenwald in order to seize his estate, fertile lands, and mountain mines, which brought fabulous income to whoever owned them. The main character's husband listens attentively to Count Greenwald's story and secretly looks at his wife to track her reaction to the Lord's emotional story. Meanwhile, Enya Lockhart listens very attentively to the exciting story of Count Greenwald and thinks that this whole story ended well not only thanks to her, but also thanks to the help of the Emperor. The girl still does not guess that the ruler of the empire is her husband and is now sitting next to her, watching her reaction to the words of the Count. Lady Sophia also listens attentively to her grandfather's story. The young noblewoman said that she considers it somewhat unfair that no one will know that her family was saved by Enya Lockhart, because the official request to the Emperor was made on behalf of the Greenwalds. The main character listened carefully to her friend and thought that it was best for her to remain in the shadows now. Therefore, she did not need any extra publicity. Enya Lockhart looked at her friend and smiled sweetly. After that, the girl said that it was enough for her that her closest people knew the truth. After these words of the main character, Count Greenwald and his granddaughter unanimously declared that, in this case, it would be much easier for them if Enya Lockhart accepted a reward from them for her help to their family. Suddenly, the main character's temporary husband intervened in the conversation. The young man put the map of the empire he had brought with him on the table. After that, he said that the Greenwald family had reclaimed all the lands that Viscount Kydland had seized by deception. After this, the young nobleman pointed to a vast wasteland that was located near the house of Count Greenwald. The youth said that this land had also returned to the Lord's possession. Dale looked at Count Greenwald and his granddaughter, and then said that they should give Enya Lockhart the wasteland and the forest that is near it. The young man believes that this will be a fair reward for the help the girl has given to the Lord and his family. The main character did not expect such a development of events. The girl was very happy and thought that Dale had not forgotten about her desire to get these vast lands, which she wants to use for growing medicinal herbs. The young Duchess is a little embarrassed because she does not know if such a gift will correspond to the efforts she has made to save Lord Greenwald's family. Perhaps it will be too generous a gift. The Count and his granddaughter listened attentively to the main character's husband and were delighted with his idea. Lord Greenwald said that he would be very pleased to give Enya Lockhart the lands she liked. Dale was also glad that the owner of the estate liked his idea. He said that now Count Greenwald acts like a true aristocrat. The young Duchess did not expect to be so generously gifted. The girl tries to refuse such a large reward for her modest efforts. Enya Lockhart said that she would only accept the restored forest that was next to the wasteland. These words surprised Count Greenwald. The main character showed a wasteland on the map, which she proposed to restore with joint efforts and sow with useful plants that would bring a good income to everyone. After this, the girl turned to the Count and Lady Sophia. She said that she wanted to show the world again that the county of Greenwald had once again regained its greatness and power. The main character smiled meaningfully and said that she would help the Greenwald family restore the poisoned lands. To do this, the girl would need to visit the local temple. Count Greenwald listened carefully to his interlocutor and asked if she was sure that the priests would want to come to his estate and take up the consecration of the vast territories that were poisoned by toxins. Enya Lockhart laughed and said that in order to lure the priests to the Greenwald estate, nothing more than generous donations would be needed. The Count has money now, so it will not be a problem. Besides, the main character already knows one cleric. The tea party soon ended, and the young Duchess, accompanied by her husband, left the Greenwald estate. The Count looks at his guests from the window and wonders if he was able to thank his savior enough today. The estate manager decided to cheer up his master and said that he had acted very wisely and nobly today when he gave Enya Lockhart a generous gift for saving him. The Count was silent for a moment and said that he recognized the Emperor in the young Duchess's husband. This meant that the Emperor had achieved his goal and had managed to find his bride, who had run away from him. But it seemed that Enya Lockhart did not yet know that her husband was the Emperor. After this, Lord Greenwald added that he did not want to raise this topic. The main thing is that the newlyweds now feel happy. Nothing more needs to be clarified or proven. The main character is now in her house and is making a list of what she will need to completely cleanse the poisoned lands of toxins. The girl is a little tired from mental work and decided to go out into the fresh air to rest. She thinks about her husband, who is currently chopping wood in the yard. Enya Lockhart admires her young husband, to whom she has already become very accustomed. The young Duchess sometimes began to forget that her marriage was fictitious. The main character watches Dale, who is doing a great job. The girl wonders if he is too tired from the hard physical work. Maybe he should rest a little? The young Duchess admires the handsome aristocrat and thinks that his real wife will be very lucky if she gets such a handsome and caring husband. The main character turned to Dale and asked him if he was too tired from chopping wood and if everything was okay with him. The young aristocrat looked up from his work and took a good look at his temporary wife. After that, Dale quickly answered the girl's question and said that he was completely fine. The main character looks at her temporary husband and is glad that he has recently begun to feel much better. In addition, he has stopped using magic scrolls that allow instant movement in space. Enya Lockhart continues to admire Dale. The girl thought that she was very lucky to have met this young mercenary with whom she had already experienced a lot. The main character thought for a while and suggested to her temporary husband to go on a pleasure walk tomorrow to change the scenery and have some fun. The young man was puzzled by this suggestion. Enya Lockhart suggested to him to go on a date. The next day, the newlyweds went on a pleasure trip to a southern city, which is located near the Greenwald estate. While walking along the beautiful streets of the city, the aristocrats met two children who were playing so enthusiastically that they accidentally collided with the newlyweds. Dale did not scold the children and helped them calm down and get up from the stone pavement they had fallen on. The children thanked the young aristocrat and continued their game. The main character told her companion that these children were very good-natured and cheerful. Dale agreed with her words. He also liked the mischievous guys who didn't care about anything except their game. Enya Lockhart added that her mood immediately improves when she looks at happy and carefree children. Dale listened carefully to his wife and thought about her words. The girl also really likes the fact that in a big city, there are a lot of people who are busy with their own affairs and always in a hurry. It's a lot of fun. It's a pity that in the Greenwald estate, everything's completely different. The main character looked around and said that she likes to travel and explore new cities and their attractions. It is a wonderful activity that does not allow a person to become sad and depressed. After this, Enya Lockhart looked at Dale intently and said that she wanted to thank him for the help he constantly gives her. These words confused the young aristocrat a little. He does not know what to answer his interlocutor. The girl added that her fault was that she devoted too little time to Dale. Therefore, the young Duchess believes that the newlyweds should spend more time together. The main character laughed and said that today must be a special day because they had their first date. Dale became even more embarrassed because he did not expect such a turn of events. After this, Enya Lockhart suggested that her temporary husband go to a luxury clothing store located nearby. The main character decided to give Dale a gift in gratitude for his help. The girl asked the young man to try on several new suits and uniforms that he liked. The owner of the store admires the beauty of the young aristocrat, but the Duchess's temporary husband is against such expensive purchases. Enya Lockhart also admires Dale's beauty in his new clothes. The girl said that she would be happy to buy him all these suits because she wants to be grateful. Besides, the Duchess may no longer have the opportunity to lure the young man to a clothing store and dress him up. The main character asked the boutique owner to pack her purchases beautifully. The girl thought that the store had quite reasonable prices that wouldn't hit her wallet too hard. The young Duchess hastened to reassure her companion and said that she had enough money to dress not only him, but herself as well. Therefore, the young mercenary had nothing to worry about. The owner of the boutique turned to the main character and said that she, too, could now try on several dresses from the new collection that had just arrived at the clothing store. The Duchess listened attentively to the shop owner and said that she would now wear one new dress, and the saleswoman could send her the rest of the outfits from the collection by mail. This proposal suited both girls, and they concluded a mutually beneficial deal there and then. The newlyweds finished shopping and went out in new outfits. The main character turned to Dale and said that today was a great day to update her wardrobe. After that, the girl took her companion by the hand and said that there were many tea houses and cafes in this beautiful city. Maybe Dale was hungry, so they needed to have lunch urgently. The young man listened attentively to his interlocutor and said that while he was near her, he was not ready for everything. These words greatly amused the main character, who told her temporary husband that he expressed himself beautifully in the company of a lady. The newlyweds went to a beautiful cafe nearby. The main character eats dessert and thinks that she met Dale only recently, but she feels great in his company. After a pleasant get-together in a cafe, the newlyweds continued their walk along the streets of the southern city. A few minutes later, they met a girl selling flowers. Dale decided to give his companion a gift. A young aristocrat approached a flower seller and handed her a heavy bag of gold coins. The young man bought all the flowers the seller had. The girl was very happy about this. Dale took the basket of flowers. The vendor thanked the generous buyer and went home happily. Everyone was very pleased with this mutually beneficial deal. The young aristocrat returned to his companion, who was waiting impatiently nearby. After that, Dale handed the main character a basket of flowers. The Duchess was happy to receive such a wonderful gift. Enya Lockhart was once again convinced that Dale is a very attentive and caring young man, with whom she enjoys being around at any time and in any place. After that, the newlyweds decided to go for a boat ride. Dale is a skilled oarsman. The young Duchess asked her temporary husband if he had enjoyed today's pleasure trip. The young aristocrat looked at his companion and said that he felt great in Enya Lockhart's company. Today's walk gave the young man strength and energy. The main character said that she was very happy that her efforts were not in vain. The girl wanted to thank her temporary husband for his support, and she succeeded. Dale listened carefully to his temporary wife and said that he also had a little surprise for her, which he wanted to give her immediately. The main character watches the young aristocrat who is about to give her his gift. This surprised and interested the girl very much. Dale stares into the eyes of his companion and does not know how she will react to his somewhat bold and daring gift. But there is no turning back. The young man has decided to give this gift to his temporary wife, no matter what. After this, the young aristocrat took out a small box and opened it, telling the Duchess that he wanted to give her the wedding rings, which unfortunately were not there at the time of the wedding. This gift puzzled the main character. She said that their marriage was fictitious and there was no need for wedding rings. But Dale took the Duchess's hand to put a wedding ring on her finger. The young man said that the presence of wedding rings for the newlyweds would help to avoid unnecessary gossip among the surrounding people. After these words, Dale asked the main character if he could put a wedding ring on her finger and if she would resist it. Enya Lockhart was very embarrassed, blushed, and agreed to the young man's proposal, which is very similar to a real declaration of love. The evening has come. It is time for the newlyweds to return home. Their joyful walk has come to an end. The main character stands with her hands down and thinks that she is sad that this wonderful day is over. Suddenly, the girl found herself near a fortune teller. Maybe she should stop by this establishment one last time to find out her fate. Enya Lockhart carefully reads the advertising sign of a fortune teller shop, which states that here you can calculate any horoscope, as well as make a compatibility table for people in love. Dale also read the information on the advertising sign, and it interested him very much. The young man is especially interested in the compatibility table of lovers. After that, the young man suggested his companion to go to the fortune-telling shop to test her fate and have some more fun before returning home. The main character happily agreed to visit the shop. When the newlyweds entered this establishment, they immediately saw an elderly sorceress who was doing some manipulations with a magic ball. The old woman greeted her guests and asked what brought them here. Dale greeted the witch and said that he was interested in drawing up a love compatibility chart with his wife. The old woman listened attentively to the young aristocrat and said that she would immediately check everything and make a table of the newlyweds' love compatibility. This greatly puzzled and confused the main character, who did not know how to react. Enya Lockhart looks closely at the elderly witch, who does not inspire confidence in her. The girl thinks that now in front of her is an ordinary charlatan. The sorceress performed some magical manipulations and said that her guests were already married. These words did not surprise the main character, because the newlyweds had wedding rings on their fingers, by which this could be easily determined. But the witch continued her manipulations and said that, in fact, the lives of the young spouses have long been intertwined. Once fate separated them, but now they are together again. The main character cannot understand what this old witch is talking about. After a while, Dale decided to stop the sorceress abruptly, so that she would not say anything unnecessary and would not reveal his true identity. The young man is not yet ready to appear before his wife in his true form as the Emperor. Enya Lockhart looked at Dale carefully. She was worried because she couldn't understand why the young nobleman had reacted so strongly to the old witch's story. The young man did not stop there. He went to the sorceress and grabbed her hand. The young nobleman said that the witch was not who she claimed to be. She used a disguise potion to distract her visitors. Dale was right. He pulled back the witch's hood. Beneath it, those present saw a man's face. After that, the young man asked the wizard who he really was. The main character tried to stop her companion from rash and aggressive actions. The girl cannot understand what is really going on here. Enya Lockhart grabbed Dale's arm and asked him to stop because no one has the right to attack a stranger without good reason. The young aristocrat was puzzled by his companion's behavior. He had not expected Enya Lockhart to stop him. Dale forgot for a few minutes that he was not allowed to reveal his true identity, but he was used to always acting like an emperor, invested with power. The young nobleman apologized to the main character for his impulsive behavior. Meanwhile, the wizard began to scold the young man for his bad behavior. Enya Lockhart calmed down a little. The girl is very pleased that she was able to calm Dale down right away. This indicates that the main character has a strong influence on him. Dale also calmed down a little and was able to control his emotions. He hugged the young duchess and once again asked her forgiveness for his unflattering behavior and lack of restraint. After that, the main character looked at the suspicious wizard. This look seemed very frightening to the mysterious sorcerer. He began to lose his composure. Enya Lockhart looked the sorcerer in the eye and calmly said that it was now his turn to answer her questions. The girl asked the wizard why he used a disguise potion and hid his true identity. The young wizard, who was hiding under the mask of an elderly witch, realized that the duchess would not be trifled with. So he smiled and told the girl that he simply wanted to create a mysterious atmosphere. The main character listened attentively to the young wizard and looked at him sternly again. After that, the girl said that she did not believe the sorcerer because the disguise potion was too expensive to simply create a mysterious atmosphere for clients. Enya Lockhart added that the use of the camouflage potion requires mandatory permission from the Mages Guild because it can be used for criminal purposes. This is a criminal matter. The main character does not believe the words of the young wizard. The girl thinks that the young wizard is hiding something because he has something bad in mind. Dale looked at the mysterious wizard and said that he should think about his future behavior. If the sorcerer continued to deceive the newlyweds, he would fall into the hands of the authorities, and then he would have a very bad time. The young aristocrat continues to put moral pressure on the unsuccessful sorcerer, who constantly insists that he has done nothing wrong. But this is not enough for Dale. He wants to know the truth immediately. The young man gave in and decided to tell his clients the whole truth. The young man admitted that he wanted to hide his identity, but he never wanted to do anything bad. This young wizard used to be a monk, and his magic power is very weak, so he prefers to be incognito. The young wizard said that he could predict the fate of other people. He decided to make a business out of this talent and earn some money, but monks are not allowed to do this, so he had to hide his true identity. The main character listened attentively to the wizard and said that she now believed him. But the girl wondered why the young man had gone so far from his monastery. The sorcerer replied that there were reasons for that too. At first, fortune-telling was just an innocent hobby for the young monk. But gradually his fame grew, and one day it reached many aristocrats of the empire who wanted to use his fortune-telling services for their own interests. The young wizard was especially often visited by children of aristocrats who wanted to know their fate. They paid handsomely for this, and the monk did not need anything. But the sorcerer's power turned out to be too weak for private, accurate predictions, so the young man had to deceive his clients and tell them the first thing that came to his mind. One day, the wizard was caught in a lie and kicked out of the temple. Now he has to hide in the south of the empire from the duped clients who paid big money for empty predictions. Dale listened attentively to the young fortune-teller and said that now everything was clear to him. The aristocrat asked the wizard if his predictions about the newlyweds today were true. The sorcerer replied that today's prediction was true. He had a divine revelation. In his vision, the newlyweds appeared at a young age. They held hands and knew each other well. The main character listened attentively to the fortune-teller. The girl thought for a moment and said that this time he was also mistaken because the newlyweds had never met before. Dale was meaningfully silent. The young wizard smiled and said that he could not be mistaken this time. After that, the sorcerer asked the young aristocrats not to turn him over to the authorities. Dale looked at the boy and asked why he should let the criminal go free. There was no good reason for it. The main character tugged her companion by the sleeve and asked him why he was so worried about this pathetic young man. Maybe he was afraid that this wizard would commit some more crimes. Dale replied that the girl had guessed his thoughts. The young wizard continues to beg the newlyweds not to hand him over to the authorities. He hasn't done anything terrible, so he can just be let go in peace. He won't practice magic anymore. Dale asked his temporary wife to wait alone for a while because he wanted to talk to the young wizard alone and then decide what to do with him next. A few minutes later, the men were outside. Dale told the boy that he must now tell only the truth and asked him if he had seen anything important in his vision other than the children. The sorcerer listened attentively to the young aristocrat and realized that he believed in his prediction. The young man smiled because he realized that not all was lost for him in the current situation. The wizard thought for a moment and told Dale that he should not be afraid of his bad past because he should strive for the future he wants to achieve. These words puzzled the heroine's husband. The young wizard smiled again and said that Dale needed to focus on his happy future, and then everything would be fine in his relationship with his wife. After this conversation, Dale returned to the fortune-teller shop where the main character is waiting for him. The young aristocrat looks a little upset. Enya Lockhart is glad that her husband has returned. The girl smiled at him and asked if he was okay. Dale looks at the main character attentively and does not answer her. The young nobleman approached his wife, and she stroked his cheek. The girl asked him again if everything was okay. He looked as if he was upset about something. Dale finally smiled and said that he was perfectly fine. After this, the newlyweds let the young wizard go in peace and returned home. Dale stands by the window and looks at the stars. The young aristocrat communicates with someone using a magic sphere. Dale ordered his mysterious interlocutor to arrange surveillance of the young wizard. The aristocrat has suspicions that he may be somehow connected with Duke Hexagon. The interlocutor is interested in the health of his master and says that the emperor cannot continue to lead a double existence. Also, moving in space takes too much energy from the sovereign. Something needs to be done about this urgently. Dale listened carefully to his assistant and finished the remote conversation with him via the magic sphere. After that, the young aristocrat lay down on the bed and thought that his subordinate had just told the truth. The young man had really been very tired lately and was not feeling his best. The young emperor closed his eyes and whispered words that he felt like his body was about to fall apart. Something had to be done about it urgently. Otherwise, the consequences could be dire. Suddenly, Dale was drawn into his childhood memories. He remembered a plate of food that his father had thrown on the floor. This caused the plate to fall upside down and all the food to end up on the floor. The cruel father locked the main character's husband in a tower and ordered him not to be given any bread or water until he reformed and thought carefully about his behavior. Dale would never forget the feeling of hopelessness he felt during his imprisonment in the high tower. The prince also constantly wanted to eat, and he was always very cold in his prison cell. When winter came, the prince thought he would die in that tower from cold and hunger. He felt like he was stuck in that horrible place for the rest of his days. One day, a young aristocrat saw someone standing below from the window of his prison cell. It was Enya Lockhart, who was still a teenager at the time. The girl turned to the prince and asked him how he had ended up in such a high tower all alone. After this, the young duchess told the prince that it was time for him to leave this terrible tower, but to do this he had to go down from it. Dale is now lying in his bed and remembering that important moment in his life. Enya Lockhart was the only person who supported the young man then and inspired him to overcome life's difficulties. The young aristocrat thought about his wife again. He must, at all costs, protect his wife's happiness. Then Dale will feel much better, but the paradox is that the young emperor is ready to sacrifice himself for this. Some time has passed. Life goes on as usual. The main character is engaged in growing medicinal herbs. Recently, she discovered that someone began to steal the fruits of her labor. This is evidenced by the traces left on the ground. Enya Lockhart is puzzled by this circumstance and is very eager to sort this matter out as soon as possible and find out who is stealing her medicinal herbs. The main character decided to take a little rest and thought that for the last few weeks someone had been systematically stealing the medicinal herbs that she grew in her field. The Duchess built a fence because at first she thought that animals were stealing, but it didn't help. Enya Lockhart also realized that the mysterious thief was becoming more and more brazen and bold each time. At first, he had only collected the leaves of medicinal herbs, but now he was tearing them out by the roots. The main character found traces of a mysterious thief in her field, which seemed very suspicious to her. They cannot belong to anyone she knows, because they are not the right size. All these circumstances have worried Enya Lockhart, who now does not know what to do to catch the mysterious thief who has taken to her garden. Suddenly, the main character heard the voice of Lady Sophia, who came to the garden to help her friend cultivate medicinal plants. The young duchess is very happy to see her friend. The girl asked the granddaughter of Count Greenwald if she had come to help her with the work in the field. Lady Sophia replied that she was in the mood for some healthy physical work today. She was very happy to be able to help her friend. The young aristocrat took with her a basket containing everything necessary for successful work with plants. Lady Sophia said that after work, she wanted to have a serious talk with the Duchess. The main character looked at her interlocutor carefully and thought that she looked a little tense. Lady Sophia was definitely worried about something. After this, Enya Lockhart smiled and said that she would be happy to take the time for a serious conversation with her friend, who so often helps her in her difficult work. A few hours later, the girls finished working in the field and went into the house to rest and have a heart-to-heart talk. When tea began, Lady Sophia honestly admitted to the main character that she had found out who she really was. Enya Lockhart was very surprised when she heard these words. The main character choked on her tea from surprise and took a handkerchief to wipe her lips. The young duchess continues to listen attentively to her interlocutor. The main character was silent for a moment and asked Lady Sophia what she meant now, talking about the fact that she found out that Enya Lockhart really appears to him. Count Greenwald's granddaughter hides her eyes and hesitantly says that she knew from the very beginning that the young duchess was an unusual girl. Lady Sophia mentioned that the main character is a very brave girl who was never afraid of Adeline Kydland. This is a very important circumstance. Lady Rosanna also said that she decided to support the Greenwald family during difficult times on the advice of Enya Lockhart. This is also a very important circumstance. In addition, Lady Sophia's grandfather and his loyal assistant are very respectful of the main character, as if they know who she really is. All this is very strange and suspicious for the granddaughter of Count Greenwald. Lady Sophia thought for a moment and added that Enya Lockhart could not possibly be the commoner she pretended to be. The Duchess was given away by her natural grace when she moved. The main character is also given away by her light and confident gait, which is inherent only to true representatives of the aristocratic community. Such skills are developed by several generations of ancestors from a noble family, because it is almost impossible for a commoner to learn them. Enya Lockhart listens attentively to her friend and understands what she is getting at. Lady Sophia has guessed that the main character is of noble origin. The main character's friend paused briefly in her reasoning and said that now everything had become completely clear to her about Enya Lockhart. The young duchess looks at Lady Sophia with excitement and waits for her to tell her. Has this quiet and exemplary girl guessed who her best friend really is? Finally, Lady Sophia collected her thoughts and said that Enya Lockhart was an aristocrat who fell in love with Dale and ran away from high society to him. These words greatly surprised the main character, who choked on her tea again. The young Duchess breathed a sigh of relief and laughed. Lady Sophia said that she was very fond of romantic books, so she guessed how things really were. The main character decided to play along with her friend and said that she was a hereditary noblewoman who was falsely accused of a crime, and now she has to hide from high society and unfair punishment. Lady Sophia stares at her interlocutor and cannot believe her ears. Her story has made a strong impression on the girl. The Duchess added that Dale is a mercenary who saved her from her pursuers at the most difficult moment. The main character was silent for a while and said that the Emperor should not know where she is now. Therefore, Lady Sophia must keep the Duchess's secret and never tell anyone about it in her life. Count Greenwald's granddaughter listened attentively to her precious friend and immediately entered into her difficult situation. Lady Sophia took the main character by the hand and said that she would never and under no circumstances reveal her secret. After that, the young aristocrat stroked her friend's hand and said that she had been through a lot. It was just awful. If Enya Lockhart needed anything, Lady Sophia would always come to her aid. The main character thanked her friend for her care and thought that it was very unpleasant for her to lie to this noble and good-natured girl, but she has no other choice now, so this lie will be for the good. When the girl's emotions had calmed down a bit, Lady Sophia said that there was another reason why she was drawn to her friend. She wanted to learn from her the rules of court etiquette, which she knew almost nothing about. Lord Greenwald's granddaughter hopes that the main character will be kind enough to teach her a few lessons in court etiquette so that she can attend the social events to which she has been frequently invited lately. Enya Lockhart stares at her young interlocutor and doesn't know what to say to her. The main character is not sure that she can teach this aristocrat anything new. The young Duchess thought for a moment and smiled sweetly at her friend. The girl told Lady Sophia that she would do everything in her power to ensure that she would soon be able to attend social events in peace. Lady Sophia was very happy that her best friend would teach her all the intricacies of court etiquette. She had dreamed about this for a long time. The girls soon finished their tea and decided to begin their training that very day. After a few minutes, Lady Sophia was so tired that she fell exhausted on her bed and told her friend that she was going to die. The main character laughed and said that now the granddaughter of Count Greenwald needed to rest to regain her strength. No one said that learning court etiquette would be easy. After that, the Duchess said goodbye to her friend and said that the classes would continue tomorrow. Enya Lockhart walks down the corridor of the Greenwald estate. The girl thinks that today her secret was almost revealed by a naive and good-natured girl. In future, the Duchess must be more careful. The main character didn't even suspect that her aristocratic upbringing and manners were so striking to the people around her. But unfortunately, nothing can be done about it. Enya Lockhart admires the beautiful sunset and thinks about her husband, who will soon pick her up and take her home from the Greenwald estate. The main character still has some free time before her husband arrives, so she decides to take another look at her garden. Maybe the girl will be able to catch the mysterious thief who has taken to going there. The young Duchess came to her garden and thought that the sun was setting too quickly. The main character definitely should have waited for Dale at the estate for safety. Suddenly, Enya Lockhart heard strange chewing sounds and instantly realized that she had been lucky today and had accidentally met a mysterious thief who was stealing her medicinal plants. Now all that was left was to find out who it was. The girl saw a figure of a man standing in her field and eating the medicinal herbs that she had grown with such great difficulty. This is simply indescribable impudence. The main character stares at the thief who is eating her harvest. The girl doesn't know what to do now. If she calls someone for help, the criminal will immediately run away. Enya Lockhart can no longer calmly watch as some impudent and daring thief eats her medicinal herbs, which she put her whole soul and a lot of physical strength into growing. The brave girl grabbed the shovel that stood next to her and decided to punish the criminal with this agricultural tool right away. The main character turned out to be very quick to punish. The Duchess quickly ran up to the thief and hit him with a shovel with all her might. The criminal did not expect this blow and fell to the ground. The confused thief has not lost consciousness. He is on his knees and telling the girl that she attacked him without reason. The voice of the criminal seemed very familiar to the Duchess. The main character stands next to the mysterious thief and continues to watch him closely, holding the shovel in full combat readiness. The criminal grinned and said that the girl should be more careful with strangers. After this, the mysterious thief used some mysterious magic, which greatly frightened the young Duchess and made her lose control of the situation for a few moments. The frightened and confused girl covered her face with her hand. The girl lost sight of her opponent and now does not expect anything good from him. The situation is becoming critical. Suddenly, her temporary husband appeared in front of the main character, who immediately stood up for her and neutralized the criminal. Enya Lockhart is very happy that this situation was resolved so happily for her. Dale tied up the thief and took him into the house. The young Duchess and her husband stand before the tied-up criminal to interrogate him and find out who he is and why he stole medicinal herbs from the girl's field. The mysterious stranger has regained consciousness after being knocked unconscious by a powerful blow to the head with a shovel. Now the criminal is behaving very brazenly and accusing the newlyweds of kidnapping him. The outraged thief also didn't like the fact that Enya Lockhart had inflicted bodily harm on him by sneaking up on him from behind. This circumstance outraged the stranger the most. The main character remembered how the thief wanted to blind her with magic smoke in the field in order to quickly hide and not be caught. But even with her eyes closed, Enya Lockhart could smell the disease that the criminal was suffering from. The girl managed to grab the thief and stop him. The stranger fell to the ground. Suddenly, an agitated Dale appeared on the field and asked his wife what was going on. The young aristocrat saw that Enya Lockhart was holding a strange man and not letting him escape. The main character told her husband that she was okay. She saw a thief in her field and tried to neutralize and catch him herself. Dale immediately realized what had happened here. Meanwhile, the thief lost consciousness because he had not eaten anything for a long time and received a strong blow to the head with a shovel. The last strength left the mysterious criminal who dared to steal plants from Enya Lockhart's field. Now the thief feels much better, but he is tied up and is being interrogated by the main character and her husband. The criminal asked the girl how she was able to see him through the smoke screen he used with magic. The main character replied that she smelled the odor of the disease that the criminal had, so she was able to catch him with her eyes closed. Now Enya Lockhart stares at her captive and tries to understand how he found her field and why he started stealing the medicinal plants she grew. Suddenly, the hungry criminal smelled the delicious smell of food and said that he had never smelled a better smell in his life. These words surprised the Duchess and her husband. Enya Lockhart realized what the criminal's weak spot was. The girl thought for a moment and said that she would feed him a fine dinner if he confessed everything to her and answered all her questions. The main character showed her captive a luxurious roast that was already cooked and was on the table, waiting for those who wanted to eat it. This offer was very tempting for the hungry criminal. The unsuccessful thief stares at the fragrant meat baked with medicinal herbs. His mouth starts to water, but he can't just give in. Something makes the criminal resist. It all ended with the hungry thief's resistance lasting only a couple of seconds. After that, he pounced on the delicious roast and ate it all in a few minutes, filling his belly to capacity. Now the captive is quite satisfied and ready to tell the newlyweds everything. Dale looked at the thief and asked where he got such an expensive and rare magical artifact. It all seems very strange because such things are very difficult for a mere mortal to acquire. The prisoner answered the young aristocrat that he had made this magical artifact himself. He was able to do this because he was an alchemist who lived in the ivory tower. The main character listened carefully to her mysterious captive and said that this circumstance further confuses the investigation. An alchemist from the Elephant Tower is not supposed to steal medicinal herbs even for the sake of magical research. Suddenly, the mysterious prisoner confessed that he had long been kicked out of the Elephant Tower and had to live on the streets, dragging out a miserable existence. The main character listened to the alchemist and remembered that the ivory tower was created by the aristocrats of the empire, who wanted to strengthen their power with its help. The mysterious young man said that he should have focused on creating weapons or cosmetics for aristocrats who wanted to preserve their youth and power. Then he would not have been kicked out of the Elephant Tower. The alchemist went into his memories and said that while in the Elephant Tower, he focused on creating inventions that would be useful to humanity. This did not please his superiors. The young man added that he wanted to increase the yield of wheat and other agricultural crops to make the work of farmers easier. He was also engaged in other important research. An alchemist has invented a device that maintains a constant temperature in a room in winter and summer. This could help many people feel comfortable in their homes. The mysterious inventor said that one day he had to leave the Elephant Tower. When the alchemist left his abode, he thought that he would be able to realize all his dreams. But it turned out that he sank to the very bottom of life without financial support. This is often the fate of dreamers who want to change the world and are not at all adapted to survival in society. The young researcher did nothing but his inventions, so he could not even get a job. The alchemist was faced with the threat of starvation, Soon the poor young man heard about the wonderful garden of medicinal herbs, thanks to which Count Greenwald was cured. So he came here and began to eat these magical herbs, so as not to die of hunger and to cure his illnesses that he had developed. Enya Lockhart listens attentively to the alchemist and begins to pity him. The alchemist finished his story and added that, in any case, he should not have been involved in stealing, because it was very low. The young man bowed to the newlyweds and asked their forgiveness for his terrible behavior. The main character began to sympathize with the unfortunate young man who had to starve and beg. But the girl could not immediately believe the stranger who was stealing the plants that she had grown in her field. Therefore, the Duchess came up with something to test the young man. Enya Lockhart looked at her interlocutor and asked his name. The alchemist replied that his name was Edward. The young Duchess thought for a moment and said that she would introduce Edward to Count Greenwald, and he would make a decision about him. Perhaps the lord would need the services of an alchemist in his estate. The touched young man could not believe his ears when he heard the words of his interlocutor. Surely he would not be brought to trial and would be provided with housing and work if Count Greenwald liked him. It was simply some kind of miracle. Enya Lockhart told the alchemist that no one would hire him for nothing. The young man would have to show his talents and prove his worth. Edward still can't believe that he was given such a wonderful chance to start a new life. The young Duchess smiled at the boy and said that she wanted to give him a chance, despite the fact that he was a pathetic thief. The girl liked the fact that the alchemist wanted to realize his dreams, which could be useful to people. Edward listened attentively to his interlocutor and thanked her for her trust. The alchemist laughed and said that he would try to justify the hopes of his savior. Meanwhile, Dale watches his wife and her ward closely. The young aristocrat is very pleased with his wife. He thought about how Enya Lockhart can never refuse a person who needs help. Several days have passed. Edward is now at the Greenwald estate under the Count's care. The main character is currently doing her friend Lady Sophia's hair. Enya Lockhart finished her work and thanked her friend for her help. The Duchess already knows that the alchemist Edward got a job at the Greenwald estate, and Lady Sophia contributed a lot to this. Lord Greenwald's granddaughter rose from her chair and approached her friend, taking her hands. After that, Lady Sophia said that the Duchess did not need to thank her, because the old Earl had long wanted to find an alchemist for his estate. Lady Sophia squeezed Enya Lockhart's hand tightly and said that she valued her friendship very much. The girl also thanked the Duchess for doing her hair today and helping her choose a gift for the Countess, whom she was going to visit. The main character answered her interlocutor that she had not done anything special. Enya Lockhart had only collected useful herbs for the Countess that would help her overcome her weather dependence. The young Duchess put her hands on Lady Sophia's shoulders and laughed. After that, the girl said that the granddaughter of Count Greenwald helped her a lot in the field of agricultural work, so she was very grateful to her for that. A few minutes later, Lady Sophia got ready for the road and set off in a luxurious carriage to visit Countess Clemente to have some fun and give her a useful gift. The action takes place in the estate of Countess Clemente. Today, this respected and authoritative aristocrat has a holiday. Many guests have gathered in her house, who want to please and flatter her in every possible way. Countess Clemente was a little tired of the constant praise of her guests, and thought that her power and wealth were very much liked by people who were drawn to her and wanted to earn her favor. The authoritative and famous Countess has long since lost her husband and children. Now she often organizes various celebrations and invites the local aristocracy to them so as not to go crazy from loneliness. But for some reason, over time, Countess Clemente feels only an increasing emptiness inside. The elderly aristocrat is very lonely among empty people who will never sincerely care for her. Suddenly, the Countess sees the young granddaughter of Count Greenwald, who has just arrived to visit her and is standing to the side with a gift in her hands. Countess Clemente greeted Lady Sophia and said that she was glad to see her as her guest. The young aristocrat was glad that the mistress of the estate paid attention to her and thanked her for inviting her to today's celebration. Lady Sophia is very much liked by the elderly Countess. She believes that the granddaughter of Count Greenwald is a modest and honest girl, who can always be relied upon in difficult times. Countess Clemente ordered her butler to show all the guests to their places and tell them to wait a little for the mistress of the estate, because she wanted to talk to Lady Sophia alone. The young aristocrat thanked the Countess for the honor and said that she had prepared a special gift for her. The girl noticed that Countess Clemente had not been feeling very well lately because the weather had gotten colder. These words slightly embarrassed the mistress of the estate. Lady Sophia added that she was very worried about the elderly Countess's health, so she brought her special medicinal herbs that would help improve the situation. Countess Clemente listened attentively to her interlocutor and froze in amazement. The elderly aristocrat did not expect such a development of events. For a very long time, no one had shown such sincere concern for her. Lady Sophia thought for a moment and added that this wonderful herbal infusion had been prepared for Countess Clemente by her best friend, who was engaged in growing medicinal herbs. The touched aristocrat happily accepted the gift from Count Greenwald's granddaughter and thought that this gift was given to her not out of flattery or servility, but because the girl was sincerely concerned about her health. Countess Clemente has not experienced anything like this for a long time. She is very glad that Lady Sophia took care of her and is very grateful to the good-natured girl for this. The elderly noblewoman paused for a moment to calm her emotions and said that she conveyed her sincere gratitude to Enya Lockhart for her medicinal herbs. The Countess would never forget this kind act. Some time passed. One day, Lady Rosanna came to visit the main character and said that the herbal tea she gave to Countess Clemente had caused a real sensation among the local aristocracy. Now everyone wants to order this medicinal tea. The Countess made a very effective advertisement for the products manufactured by Enya Lockhart. The main character listened carefully to her friend and said that all this was very good, but she was not going to reduce the quality of her products due to the large number of orders. Lady Rosanna thought for a moment and replied to the Duchess that she must take advantage of the opportune moment to successfully enter the herbal market. Enya Lockhart said she was delighted that her herbal concoction had been well received by Countess Clemente and the local aristocrats. But it still needed some work. The main character also added that she plans to focus entirely on selling premium herbs in order to use the proceeds to provide poor people with all the necessary medicines. Lady Rosanna listened to her interlocutor and said that it would be a great pity to miss such a wonderful opportunity to start an effective business at the moment. After that, the girl asked her friend if she would like to go to the capital of the empire to strengthen her business position. The young Duchess did not expect such a turn of events. The girl did not hide in the county of Greenwald from the crazy emperor who has been pursuing her for 3 years. The main character cannot go to the capital of the empire. It could be very dangerous. A friend of Enya Lockhart's told her that the main branch of the merchant guild that her father runs is located in the capital of the empire. Therefore, the young Duchess needs to go there. Lady Rosanna added that the trip to the capital would help Enya Lockhart expand her business connections and gain more weight in aristocratic society. The main character listens attentively to her interlocutor and understands that she is absolutely right. But the Duchess is confused by the potential dangers that may arise during her stay in the capital of the state. Enya Lockhart thought for a moment, looked at her reflection in her teacup, and made her final decision. The girl informed her friend that she was not going to the capital city for the time being. Lady Rosanna listened attentively to her interlocutor and said that she could always turn to her if she changed her mind. After that, the girl said goodbye to her companion and went home. The main character thought about the current situation. The girl understands that she has solved the trade issues, but there are still other important matters that need to be completed urgently. Enya Lockhart decided to do other important things until her temporary husband Dale returned. The main character is very tired because in a short period of time, many different events have happened in her life. The young Duchess saved the Greenwald family from falling, and she also taught Lady Sophia all the intricacies of court etiquette. This gave the main character the opportunity to gain a foothold in the county and obtain a plot of land for growing medicinal herbs. Enya Lockhart thought that the cultivation of the poisoned land was still ongoing, but the process accelerated after the alchemist Edward appeared at the Greenwald estate. The main character continues to work and reflect on the fact that by and large, she is also a kind of alchemist who loves to help people. The young Duchess is also very happy that she was able to organize a trade in medicinal herbs, which will be able to provide the poor with the necessary medicines in the future. Enya Lockhart is always ready to lend a helping hand to anyone who needs it. But unfortunately, it is very difficult for the girl to cope with all the affairs alone. The Duchess remembered the plot of the original novel she found herself in. She decided that she would not allow herself to be used by others, as it was written in that romantic story. Now Enya Lockhart writes the script of her own life. The main character will never be like Duke Hexagon, who uses people for his own gain. She will also never be like the crazy emperor who locked his bride forever in his own palace and doomed her to terrible suffering. Enya Lockhart sighed heavily and thought that she was helping the people around her in order to change this story for the better. But being on the run, the girl would not be able to achieve great results. Suddenly, the main character's thoughts were interrupted by a loud knock on the door of her house. This puzzled the girl a little, because she was not expecting anyone now except her husband, who usually entered the house without knocking. Enya Lockhart stood up from her desk and asked the intruder who he was and what he wanted in the house. The girl had not yet opened the door. A pleasant baritone voice was heard from behind the door, asking the girl if a man named Dale lived here. The main character has never heard this voice before, so she doesn't know what to answer the uninvited guest. All this seemed very suspicious to the young Duchess, but she had to go outside and check who this guest was asking for Dale. The girl had a protective artifact that her husband had given her just in case. A few moments later, the main character opened the front door and saw a strange stranger in a hooded cloak standing on the threshold of her house. The mysterious stranger removed his hood and smiled kindly at Enya Lockhart. After that, he said that the young Duchess was very beautiful, and he was somewhat envious of Dale for having such a wonderful wife. The main character looked at the guest intently and asked him who he was. The stranger replied that he was Dale's best friend. Enya Lockhart did not believe her interlocutor, but the young aristocrat said that it was not surprising, because Dale did not like to talk about his past life. The main character continues to study the stranger. She treats the young man with suspicion, because everything seems to be going too smoothly for him, judging from his words. The young aristocrat looked closely at his interlocutor and began to feel respect for her, because the girl did not take advantage of the opportunity and did not begin to ask him about her husband's mysterious past. Suddenly, the young man took a golden scroll out of his pocket and showed it to the main character. The girl froze in amazement and did not know what to answer her guest. Enya Lockhart has seen similar golden scrolls before, which are designed to protect their owners from various troubles. Such artifacts can only be in the possession of very noble people. The uninvited guest came closer to his interlocutor and said that she could take this protective scroll if she did not trust the young aristocrat, and thought that he wanted to offend her in some way. The stranger added that the girl could simply tear the protective scroll if she felt it necessary to do so. Then she would have complete protection from the young aristocrat she feared. The young man said that Enya Lockhart could also use the magical artifact that Dale gave her. He knows that the girl has this trinket in her pocket. The stranger behaves very brazenly and provocatively. He came up to the main character again, handed her a protective scroll, and said that he was not going to do anything. The girl should trust him. After this, the young aristocrat invited his interlocutor to come into the house and have a quiet conversation. Perhaps after talking with the stranger, the main character will change her opinion of him. The interlocutors entered the house, and the young Duchess treated her guest to tea. After that, the main character asked the young man what he wanted from Dale. The mysterious stranger listened attentively to Enya Lockhart and praised the cookies she had made. But the girl replied that the cookies had been made by Dale, and the guest should not evade a direct answer to the question posed. The young aristocrat was very surprised when he heard the words of his interlocutor. He never thought that his best friend could cook so well. The main character again began to doubt that this young man is a friend of her temporary husband. But the mysterious stranger does not pay any attention to this, and continues to admire Dale's culinary talents. Enya Lockhart begins to get angry at her interlocutor for constantly evading direct answers. The girl said that she has a feeling that the guest does not know Dale at all and does not know anything about him. The young aristocrat realized that the main character still did not believe him. The young man smiled meaningfully and swore to his interlocutor that he was her husband's best friend. After that, the mysterious stranger looked at the main character and said that he knew Dale better than anyone in the world. Enya Lockhart's husband is a top-ranking mercenary who has never been interested in anyone except himself. The young Duchess listened attentively to her interlocutor and said that he was now brazenly lying, because Dale was a very kind and sympathetic person, whom everyone in the village loved very much. The intruder laughed loudly when he heard the girl's words and said that Dale's behavior was more like a pretense to please his wife. The main character looked at her interlocutor again and said that she was not going to play any stupid games with him. Let him tell her why he came here, or just leave this house. After this, Enya Lockhart pointed to the protective scroll and said that it did not say who her uninvited guest was, who was simply fooling the girl and not answering her questions directly. The mysterious stranger listens attentively to the young Duchess and admires her beauty. From the outside, it may seem that the young man has fallen in love with the main character and cannot take his eyes off her. The young man came to himself again and laughed. He thought for a moment and said that the young Duchess should not disturb the proper order of things and should first introduce herself. And then the young nobleman would introduce himself to her if he thought it necessary to do so. The mysterious stranger was silent for a while, and then told the real name and title of his interlocutor. This put the main character into a state of shock. She cannot understand where this strange young man got this secret information from. Enya Lockhart jumped up from her chair and pulled out a hidden dagger. The girl began to threaten her interlocutor with this dagger and said that he must immediately introduce himself to her. Otherwise, the Duchess would use her dagger. The mysterious guest continues to sit calmly in his place and coolly watches Enya Lockhart's actions, admiring her fighting spirit and beauty. Suddenly, the young man laughed loudly to ease the tense situation a little and said that his name was Cassian Schultz. This situation seems very funny to the interlocutor of the young Duchess. At first, the main character did not believe the young aristocrat who introduced himself as Cassian Schultz, because a man with that name is the emperor's best friend and the whole empire knows about it. Enya Lockhart recalled the plot of the original novel she found herself in. According to the script of this story, Cassian Schultz holds the title of Marquis. He is also the youngest owner of the Elephant Tower in the history of the empire, because he comes from an ancient family of magicians. According to the plot of the book, this aristocrat helped the imprisoned bride of the emperor to hide from the hated groom. The young Duchess also recalled that the storyline of this colorful character ended when he suddenly died for unknown reasons and ceased to be mentioned at all in the subsequent story. In the novel, this remained a mystery to everyone. Enya Lockhart continues to hold her dagger in her hand and threaten the mysterious visitor, who she believes is trying to mislead her. The girl thinks that an aristocrat of such high rank as Cassian Schultz cannot be friends with a common mercenary, which is Dale. Cassian Schultz looked closely at the magical dagger that the main character was holding in her hands and said that he had made this magical artifact himself. Therefore, he assumed that Dale had given it to the girl. After that, the young man added that he came to this house to meet the owner of the artifact he created. Cassian Schultz did not think that this person would be the missing Duchess Enya Lockhart. The main character listened carefully to her interlocutor and thought that he could be dangerous for her, so she grabbed the protective golden scroll to protect herself in the current situation. Cassian Schultz looks at his interlocutor and smiles. He does not want to cause the girl any harm, so he finds this situation very funny. After this, the young aristocrat looked the missing Duchess in the eyes and said that he would not hand her over to the emperor, so she had nothing to worry about. The main character came to her senses a little and calmed down. The girl said that Cassian Schultz should not talk to her in such a casual tone because they had only known each other for a few minutes. The young Duchess looked sternly at her interlocutor and said that he should show his aristocratic upbringing and behave more politely in the presence of a noble lady. The young nobleman is very happy that Enya Lockhart has finally admitted that she is a girl from a noble family. Now it will be much easier to talk to her. Cassian Schultz asked permission to formally apologize for such familiar behavior. The young man would behave more restrained in the future and was ready to atone for his guilt by telling his interlocutor information that might interest her. The interlocutors calmed down and made peace. They sat down at the table again. Cassian Schultz said that a certain woman had recently appeared in the capital who claimed to be a member of the Lockhart family. These words surprised the main character. The young man added that this strange and mysterious woman had been stalking people in the capital and causing many problems for local authorities, hiding behind her noble name. Enya Lockhart said that perhaps this woman was her aunt, who had long ago abandoned her family and severed all ties with them. This happened more than 10 years ago. Cassian Schultz said that the unrest in the capital was caused by a young girl, so she could not be the Duchess's aunt. The main character replied that, in that case, it was her aunt's daughter, who was appropriate in age for the situation. The young man agreed with his interlocutor and said that all this was very strange and not accidental. The main character thought about her aunt, whom she remembers well. A relative of Enya Lockhart, she was once the favorite of her entire family. She was a very cheerful and friendly girl. But one day the young Duchess's aunt fell in love with a commoner and ran away with him, wherever her eyes looked, completely severing all ties with her family. Since then, the grandfather of the main character has forbidden mentioning the name of the fugitive who betrayed her family and exchanged her loving relatives for some pathetic and dirty commoner. Considering the information that Cassian Schultz told the young Duchess, it becomes clear that someone is trying to create a big scandal to undermine the position of the Lockhart family. The main character thought for a while and came to the conclusion that the only person who could dare to carry out such a daring intrigue against her family was Duke Hexagon. Enya Lockhart looked at Cassian Schultz carefully. The young man shared his interlocutor's guess. He also thought that the wily Duke Hexagon, who was very good at manipulating people for his own purposes, was involved in this scandal. The young nobleman now looked more serious than he did a few minutes ago. He looked at the young Duchess and said that even his noble and respected family had problems with Duke Hexagon. Cassian Schultz thought for a moment and said that the treacherous Duke would soon be released from house arrest. This would bring much trouble not only to the Lockhart family, but also to many other noble families of the Empire. The young Marquis smiled meaningfully and said that Enya Lockhart could investigate this matter in order to expose Duke Hexagon and put him in prison for good. The main character looks closely at her interlocutor and cannot understand why he is helping her. After all, they have only known each other for a few minutes. Cassian Schultz guessed what his best friend's wife was thinking, snapped his fingers, and said that the girl could consider his help as a return of an old debt. These words puzzled the main character. Enya Lockhart asked the young man what debt he was talking about. But Cassian Schultz stood up from the table and said that it was time for him to return to the Imperial Palace. If Dale found out he was here, the Marquis would get into trouble for it. The young man used a magic scroll to move through space and instantly disappeared, blinding the main character with a bright flash of light. It was evening. Dale came home and the main character told him that she had met his best friend Cassian Schultz today. This greatly surprised Enya Lockhart's husband. The young Duchess asked Dale if the Marquis was really his best friend, or if it was all just a beautiful lie. Dale was a little nervous when his temporary wife asked him this question. He said that Cassian Schultz was not his best friend. They had just crossed paths at work before, and nothing more. Apparently, the young Marquis's visit today has left Dale very agitated. He clenches his fists tightly and strains all his inner strength to contain his anger at the intruder. The young Duchess's husband calmed down a little and asked what Cassian Schultz had managed to tell her during his visit. The main character replied that the Marquis had brought disturbing news about Duke Hexagon. Enya Lockhart added that Cassian Schultz told her that a strange and suspicious girl had appeared in the capital, posing as her cousin and committing various atrocities. The main character thought for a moment and said that, apparently, Duke Hexagon was planning to create a loud scandal that would disgrace the Lockhart family. The young Duchess confessed to her temporary husband that after the Marquis's visit she tried to remember her aunt, who had left the family more than 10 years ago. But the girl barely remembered her, so she failed. The main character communicated a lot and often with her aunt as a child, but she completely forgot the details of these conversations. Enya Lockhart confessed to Dale that she felt as if her childhood had been erased from her memory up to a certain point. It's all very strange. Maybe there's some magic involved. The main character began to fidget and wrinkle her dress out of excitement. The girl said that perhaps her memory would return if she met her aunt again and could talk to her frankly. The young Duchess thought for a moment and said that she wanted to visit the capital of the Empire to sort out this strange matter that concerned her family. Enya Lockhart heard that the Emperor and her family members had left the capital, so now was the best time to visit it safely. Dale listened attentively to his wife and was very happy when he heard these words. The young aristocrat asked the Duchess if she would allow him to accompany her on this trip. The main character was very surprised when Dale expressed a desire to accompany her during a trip to the capital. The girl was accustomed to the fact that her temporary husband loved a solitary lifestyle in the provincial wilderness. After that, Enya Lockhart looked closely at her husband's noble face and thought that she would need an assistant during this difficult test. The main character knows that Dale will be a reliable friend who will always be able to help her out in a difficult situation, so she allowed the young man to accompany her during the capital trip. A few days later, Enya Lockhart and Dale found themselves in the capital of the Empire. The young man managed to get a disguise potion for his wife so that she could safely move around the city without being recognized by anyone. Now the young Duchess looks completely different than before. The main character is very happy that Dale accompanies her during this journey. The girl feels completely safe next to the young aristocrat. Suddenly, Enya Lockhart saw her brother, whose name is Samuel. The main character was very surprised by this circumstance, because her brother should now be absent from the capital, staying in a winter training camp with the Emperor. Samuel Lockhart looked towards the young Duchess, and for a moment he thought he recognized his own sister. Perhaps it was some kind of obsession or magic. The main character doesn't want her brother to recognize her. The girl grabbed her companion by the hand and quickly hid with him behind the corner of the nearest building. Dale can't understand what's happening now. Enya Lockhart told him that she just met her brother by chance and didn't want him to recognize her. This surprised the young Duchess's husband very much. The main character's husband looked around the corner and said that her brother was approaching them. Something urgently needed to be done to avoid this unwanted meeting. Samuel Lockhart heads to the place where his sister is hiding with her husband. The situation is becoming critical. A little more and the plans of the main character will be thwarted. Suddenly, Dale found a way out of the difficult situation. The young man asked the Duchess for forgiveness for his impudent act and grabbed her gently by the neck, bringing her close to himself. The young aristocrat then leaned towards his temporary wife and prepared to kiss her in order to avoid direct contact with Samuel Lockhart. Meanwhile, Samuel Lockhart continues to search for his sister. He is sure that he just saw her, despite the girl's unusual appearance. The young Duke saw Enya Lockhart go around the corner of the building, accompanied by a young man he did not know. This situation urgently needs to be clarified. Samuel Lockhart came to the place where his sister was hiding. He went around the corner and called her, but suddenly he froze in amazement. The young aristocrat was very surprised when he saw a couple in love who were kissing passionately and were not at all embarrassed by the fact that there were residents of the capital around. Samuel Lockhart was embarrassed when he saw lovers kissing and thought that maybe he had just made a mistake and met not his sister, but some other girl on the street. The well-bred aristocrat immediately apologized to the lovers for unintentionally disturbing them. After that, the young man stepped aside and began to reflect on the situation. The main character and her temporary husband stopped kissing when Samuel Lockhart left. They realized that their plan had worked and the brother did not recognize his sister, who was on the run. It was a rather dangerous situation that could ruin all the plans of the young Duchess. Dale gently stroked his beloved's cheek and carefully looked around to really assess the situation. The young man did not see Samuel Lockhart anywhere and realized that the danger was finally over. After this, the young aristocrat turned to his temporary wife and informed her that there was nothing more to fear and that they could continue their journey through the capital of the empire. But the main character is not feeling very well now. She did not expect that Dale would dare to kiss her, and now she cannot understand how to feel about this action of her temporary husband. Dale noticed the girl's confusion and asked if everything was okay with her now. The main character is in a state of complete shock. She does not know what to answer her husband. The confused Duchess gently touched her lips and realized that she had just kissed a man for the first time in her life. It was an extraordinary and delightful experience. The girl remembered her first kiss and thought that she had not expected it to make such a strong impression on her. Dale turned to his temporary wife and tried to calm her down. The young man said that he panicked at a critical moment and tried to find a way out of a dangerous situation. The young aristocrat added that he was very sorry that this happened. The main character saw that the road was now clear and headed forward. The girl said that she was completely fine. She was just a little scared that her brother would recognize her. Now the Duchess thinks that it is time for her to return home so as not to expose herself to unnecessary danger. Dale looks after his beloved and does not listen to her at all. He touched his lips with his hand and thought that he will remember this kiss forever. After some time, the main character took off her magical disguise because it turned out to be useless in the current situation. The girl and her temporary husband came to Dale's capital house. The Duchess was very surprised when she found out that the young man lived in a luxurious mansion. Simple mercenaries cannot earn money for such an expensive house. The young aristocrat accompanies his wife and remains silent. He simply does not know what to answer the young Duchess to her remark about the high cost of his house. But the girl was carried away by the impression this luxurious estate made on her. She quickly ran to the gates of the house to open them. The main character entered the house and said that she liked it here very much. The young man does not share his companion's opinion because no one has lived here for a long time. Dale thought for a moment and said that he would try to find another home for the young Duchess because he considered this old house unsuitable for habitation. Enya Lockhart said that she was happy with everything and that Dale did not need to look for a new home to live in. The young man was very happy that his wife liked the estate. He said that he was lucky to buy this house from a friend for a small price once. Dale looked at the main character carefully and expressed his hope that she would enjoy living here and have a wonderful time while she was in the capital of the empire. After this, the young man said that he was giving up his room to his temporary wife because it was the most comfortable and always flooded with sunlight during the daytime. The main character appreciated this noble gesture of the young man. Dale thought for a moment and said that his room would be next to Enya Lockhart's room, so she would always be able to turn to him for help if she needed it. A few moments later, the couple entered Dale's room to inspect it and found it completely empty. The young nobleman guesses what is going on. His servants are to blame for not carrying out the emperor's orders correctly. The young man did not expect that his servants would carry out his orders literally. They furnished the young Duchess's room very well, taking all the things from the master's room. Dale remembered his over-eager servants, whom he would surely punish when he saw them again. This is what happens when you follow orders too proactively. The young aristocrat covered his face with his hand and thought that now he would have to live for some time in a completely empty room. It would not be very comfortable, The young man would not even be able to sleep normally after a hard day's work. The main character immediately realized the complexity of her temporary husband's situation and asked if there was another bedroom in the house. Dale replied that there were many bedrooms in this estate, but no furniture at all. The young aristocrat confessed to his wife that he had completely forgotten to order new furniture in his haste, and now he would have nothing to sleep or eat on. This was simply terrible, so he asked the young Duchess for forgiveness for his mistake. While Dale was in despair, the main character had a great idea. The girl took her husband's hand to calm him down. Now she wants to tell him her plan. Enya Lockhart looked meaningfully at her husband and said that in her room there was a huge bed that both spouses could sleep on, so they should take advantage of this opportunity. Dale had not expected such a turn of events. The young aristocrat asked again if he had understood the Duchess correctly, that she had offered him to sleep together in the same bed. The main character took Dale to her chambers and showed him her large bed. The girl said that there was enough room for 2 newlyweds, who must maintain secrecy and live in the same room so as not to arouse suspicion among others. In the evening, the young aristocrats went to bed in the same bed. To maintain decorum, they placed pillows between them so as not to embarrass each other with their close presence. Enya Lockhart closed her eyes and immediately fell into some strange half-sleep state, which is accompanied by various visions of the future that may soon happen. The girl dreams that in the capital of the empire, a terrible epidemic of some skin disease has begun among the local aristocrats. The unfortunate noblewomen suffer greatly from this mysterious disease and do not know how to get rid of it. The main character dreams that some aristocrats are going crazy from a terrible itch that they constantly experience due to a mysterious disease that cannot be cured. Many noble ladies are left with hideous scars after this disease, which spoil their appearance. It's all just awful, and no one knows what to do about it. Enya Lockhart thinks that it's all because of the poor quality cosmetics that the aristocrats use. Suddenly, the main character woke up and realized that she had just seen a nightmare, which seemed to her a terrible reality. This vision was too clear. Enya Lockhart is completely confused. The frightened girl looks at the ceiling and does not understand what just happened to her. If it was a dream, then why did it seem so real to the Duchess? The main character came to her senses a little and calmed down. The girl thought and concluded that she had not seen an ordinary dream, but a certain prediction that should happen soon. Enya Lockhart remembered that she had had similar visions before, which always came true. So the girl decided to be extremely careful and do everything to prepare for a similar situation that she saw in her dream. After that, the main character looked at her temporary husband, who was sleeping carefree next to her on the same bed, and again felt completely safe. She always feels better with Dale. Suddenly, Enya Lockhart wanted to talk to her husband. The girl quietly asked Dale if he was currently asleep or just pretending. The young aristocrat did not answer the main character. This means that he has fallen asleep and is actually resting. The girl has decided not to disturb her temporary husband for now, because he is very tired today and needs to restore his strength, which he will need tomorrow. The young Duchess admires the handsome aristocrat who's now lying next to her on the bed. The girl is very happy that Dale accompanies her on this journey and is always ready to come to her aid. Enya Lockhart stroked Dale's hair gently and thought that he must have been overtired today if he was sleeping so soundly now. Only a person with a pure soul could sleep so well. After that, the young Duchess kissed her husband on the forehead and wished him good night. Enya Lockhart is ready to guard the young aristocrat's sleep all night, if necessary.